There's first and there's last. No one goes into a show for second. I just always been that type of person, all in or all out. Born and raised in, Fresno, ghetto, on welfare. My nickname then was Skinny Kenny. The KKK had a strong presence where I came from. I had to fight a lot just over the N-word. I was 100 times better as a martial artist than I ever could be as a bodybuilder. But there was just no money to be made way back then. Some of the things I was able to go through in bodybuilding is because of the discipline I had. Never say no, just shut your mouth and do it. Great athletes have an adversary that is equal to your greatness. That's the reason why you exceed. There's a drug that will help you in every aspect. When you say stories, really, what are you saying? I start using this word called, sports technology drugs, because it's highly tech. The first time I tried to kill myself, I was a little over 11 years old. I still deal with suicidal thoughts. It's almost like a disease. Out of everything I've been through, molested, suicidal, homeless, on welfare, made millions, lost millions, bankrupt, made millions again. Still, there's a lesson to be learned. Your weakest moments, you're actually your strongest. You gotta be weak. You gotta surrender. If you woke up this morning, you're winning.
They say that the human race is doomed, that we have lost touch with our true nature, that the media has corrupted us, and that the planet has no future. I disagree. I believe that humanity is full of hope, and that our salvation lies within each one of us. My name is Brian Rose, and my job is to listen, the oldest method of learning known to man. Each week I seek out individuals that are changing the world, people who are living and thinking in a different way. Their stories will challenge your beliefs, make you question your choices, and perhaps inspire you to change. I never planned on doing any of this, but now I can't stop. Join me on this mission and make humanity something we can all be proud of.
It's time for you to man up, to once and for all tell your mind who the fuck is boss. I need a fucking answer. What's it gonna be? I don't know what it is about this fucking sport, but it attracts people that really need to do deep work on themselves.
I failed in this city. All these bad memories. I never really felt like I gave a fuck about me or my life. I almost killed myself, like.
Think about something that is going to drive you when it really hurts. Some kind of demon you want to fight.
This is not Pussy Man, this is Iron Man. Under pressure reveals true character. What are you gonna do? You gonna be in Chattanooga, May 20th or what?
When it comes to bodybuilders in the 1990s, it doesn't get much better than Flex Wheeler. Just look at some of the routines he used to do on stage with DMX pumping in the background. But unfortunately, he came second to both Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman, never got the gold, and it's been haunting him ever since. He's also struggled with suicide issues, and he got very real with me in these leather chairs. I love Flex. I love his perspective. He's a fighter, and he continues to fight to this day, and I know you're gonna enjoy this incredible conversation with him. At Inside London Real, we're prepping for our Life Accelerator course, 18 high performance habits of some of the greatest guests on London Real, and then I personally mentor you for 6 weeks to get them done. It's all about accountability, folks. We get you to do the things you don't want to do in order to get the results that you want. Check it out at londonreal.tv.
London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Kenneth Flex Wheeler, the American professional bodybuilder once described by Arnold Schwarzenegger as one of the greatest he ever saw. You won the Arnold Classic 4 times and competed in Mr. Olympia throughout the 90s, notoriously coming second to both Dorian Yates in 93 and Ronnie Coleman in 98, who would then go on to hold the title for 8 years in a row. In 99, you were diagnosed with a rare kidney disease and announced your retirement from bodybuilding in 2000. Last year, you had a comeback and competed in the Mr. Olympia Classic Physique. Kenneth Flex, welcome to London Real.
It is such a tremendous honor to be on your show. As I said off the air, I mean, I think one of the greatest honors is just being able to go somewhere and be respected for what you've done, you know, not being seen for your color, your creed, or your race, or, you know, who you worship. That's just the greatest honor. So for you to even want me on your show is just, you have no idea. You have no idea. It's just a tremendous honor. So thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, and I just know this is going to be an incredible conversation from just meeting you right away. First off, what's it like coming into London? What are your memories of this place? And when you think of the UK, when you're back in Vegas or in Cali, what comes to mind? Well,
first, I mean, it's the historical. It's the beginning of everything. If you go back, you know, before Christ. So even when I was driving from London Heathrow, I was thinking about that with my driver's like, this is history. It's like, you know, my country, United States, we don't really have a history like that. But you think of China, you think of, you know, you think of the UK, you think of Russia. These are civilizations that form our normal civilization now. So that always come to mind. And just driving things that they take so for granted, just seeing castles and just buildings that's been standing for 2,000 and 3,000 years is just amazing for me. It's just beautiful. It's just pure history. Yeah.
And did you come over here and compete throughout the 90s?
Yeah, I did. I competed here twice. Once, I think, in Manchester, and then again in 99. Yeah, I think once in like 93 and once again in 99. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you competed against some Brits over the years as well. So.
Yeah. One guy that you mentioned, he kind of ruined the day a little bit for me. But no, I mean, in all honesty, you know, from where I come from and my upbringing, just to be on stage with great athletes is just a true gift, and it's a true honor. So it is what it is. I don't look at it as lost. I mean, when you are in the heat of a battle with somebody, it's win and lose. But once you step back from it, you look at what you've achieved, and now your name is etched in stone and stamped, and you know, time stamped. So it's just all about honors and respect, you know.
And I want to get into those years in the 90s. And I've been watching video on you right next to Dorian posing off, and you next to Ronnie, and just your routine, you know, back in 98, 99 was ridiculous. And I want to get to that stuff.
Sure.
But let's start in 1965 in Fresno, California. What is this young Kenneth like?
You know, so when I was asked to be on your show, I had to make a decision on how honest and open I was going to be. And for whatever reason, since the beginning of time, I've just been brutally honest about some of the worst things I've ever done and ever been, and my great. So, you know, I born and raised in, you know, Fresno ghetto, on welfare, you know, very difficult. It was very, very racial charged back then. You know, the KKK had a strong presence where I came from. Had to fight a lot just over the N-word. Just you know, just it was a daily battle. Even just in your own neighborhood, just having to fight and stuff like that. But it was difficult for me because also there was no known knowledge about dyslexia, and I was tremendously dyslexic. So, you know, at that time you just called stupid, and they'll just put you in a corner. And I got tired of getting embarrassed by my teacher, because back then you had to go and write on a blackboard, unlike now. And I got to the point where I was so fed up of being embarrassed that I just started just being rebellious. So if the teacher said, you know, can you come up and do this, I would say, F off. You know, so immediately I get it. You know, back then we get paddling, so I get a paddle and I get sent to the office and I get sent home. But it started a routine for me, because I felt more comfortable getting in trouble instead of you aware of my weakness and what that was. And then later on, just, you know, dealing, you know, with suicidal, you know, the first time I tried to kill myself, I was a little over 11 years old. So it was a difficult life, but at the end of the day, I understand now that life is what you make it. So in various different sequences, I was given lemons, and I just learned now to make lemonade out of it and serve it, so I can help other people who've been through similar things, and I can give it back, you know, in a way that's positive. So you can always learn. So from the worst situation you ever been in, there's something you can learn from that. And it took me almost, probably 40 years to finally figure that out, and still deal with suicidal thoughts just all throughout my career. And even almost every day it's a challenge. I have to make it a conscious choice to, you know, fight or flight. So it's different. It's not like it's something you want. It's almost like a disease, because you, you know, I'd always get asked, well, how could you be suicidal? You know, what about your kids? What about your life? You know, and I think about that. But the sick thing about it is, when you're really suicidal, you're forcing yourself to do it. So yeah, I don't want my kids to stand over my coffin. I don't even want to know what that feels like. So if I hurry up and pull this trigger, I only feel that as long as I'm here. So none of these things are stopping you. They're promoting you to hurry up and do it, because you don't want to feel it. And you're aware that I'm only going to feel that as long as I'm here. So if I hurry up and get this over with, I don't have to feel that. I don't have to mourn. I don't have to have these thoughts. So, but yeah, Fresno was, I shamelessly say it's a good place to be from and no longer there, because it was really, really rough. But I think all small town mentalities are the same, you know. No one's trying to achieve any greatness. You look in a big cities, it's a hustle, it's a bustle. People are trying to become something, but in small little regions like that, people are just trying to survive, whether it's surviving on you and taking what you have, or, you know, or taking advantage of you in any way. So, but still, there's a lesson to be learned. You don't have to become a product of your environment. You have to make a conscious choice to resist that.
What was the family unit like? You know, who was there and who wasn't there?
You know, unfortunately, again, it's a typical American family. You know, a broken family. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's more percentage of that than not in the United States. So I don't have a conscious visual thought of ever seeing my dad in my home, even though he had a presence in my life. But he was gone before I was even of age to be able to know who he was. So my mother was very, very strong figured. You know, she had a very, very difficult upbringing. So we had to deal with a lot of things, you know, a lot of anger from her. I think my oldest brother, she was barely 16 when she had him. And I was the second to the youngest. So she's already 5 deep in the children. So it was really difficult for her. So it was rough. It was rough. We kind of had to take care of ourselves. We had to be responsible for ourselves, things that I think kids take, you know, for granted now, you know, keeping the house clean, not letting it burn down, you know, just normal things. But I think in other ways, like I said, there's a positive side. It taught us how to take care of ourselves. So it helped us grow and to be good men and women out of the family. So, but it was rough. I got abused a lot by my siblings. Got beat up a lot. You know, I was the youngest at the time for a long time. So I think they just took the brunt of their anger out on me, and you know, it manifested in me in a number of different ways. So it was interesting.
And
yeah.
you know, the suicidal stuff, does that come from that kind of abusiveness when you were a kid, or do you think that's something else?
No, no, I truly know where it started. I vividly remember, even as I wrote in my book. So I was coming from church, and my grandmother, who raised me pretty much, she was rewarding me for going to church because my other siblings didn't go that time. So we're sitting at a bus stop, and the only credit card she had was to a major store called Wine Stocks back then, and they had a restaurant inside of it. So that was like the premier thing to do, right? If we go to Wine Stocks and eat. So she was going to take me there, and this kid gets off the bus, and he just walks up to me and goes, "Hey, my sister likes you. Here's her phone number." So, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember, you know, my grandmother, you know, as wise as she was, she just kind of looked away. And now I see it. She's looking away like, you know better than this. I'm not going to say nothing. So I took the number.
How old are you?
I think I'm like 11, 12, something like that. And I took the number, and I called the girl, and she invited me over. And this is how bad it is, because that could never happen in my home, but her whole family's there. So I knock on the door, she invites me in and takes me right to her bedroom. We have sex. And I don't know what's going on. I don't really understand it. Even though I got molested younger as a child, I didn't really understand that whole thing. And I just got up and left. And she ended up getting pregnant from it. So my thought was, here we are. You know, my grandmother's trying to do the best she can to take care of all of us. A hardworking woman. And I've embarrassed my family. I've embarrassed her. And I just couldn't live with the thought that letting her down. So the thought of just taking my life just popped into my head. So I remember vividly getting on my moped, and, you know, the off-ramp of a freeway, I drove up the off-ramp. I remember just sitting there, and it was storming and raining. And I was like, okay, I was trying to pick which vehicle. And it's sad, but I put so much thought process into it now that I think about it. I was trying to pick a vehicle to pull out in front of. So I'm on a little moped, and it's raining, so it doesn't have speed. So I'm like, well, what if I pull out in front of a car and they swerve? I'm embarrassed. What do I do? Or, you know, what if I pull out in front of a car and it hits me and just mains me? So I said, okay, I got to pick a diesel, because they can't stop. They'll lock their brakes up, and they're going to skid. And I'm sitting there, and, you know, diesels are going by, and I'm sobbing. You know, I'm just really grappling with, honestly,
you're like
now
11, 12 years old.
Yeah. I'm just really, you know, if you look at it, I'm just really grappling with evil and good, you know, and I can't bring myself to do it. So then I go into a mindset that continues for the next 4 decades of, you're a coward. You can't even kill yourself. You don't deserve, geez, you can't do shit right. You get a girl pregnant, you can't even kill, you can't do nothing right. So it's that constant beating myself up. And I'm driving home, and I remember my sister boyfriend left a gun in the house, and she had it. So, you know, I kind of cheered myself up. I remember walking in the house, and my father looking at me, because we were staying, my grandmother, he was staying there now with my grandmother. He's like, boy, what's wrong with you? I'm like, nothing. You know, it was raining outside, you know, and that was my excuse for crying. And I just walked in my sister's room. I was like, Charlene, you know, you still have that gun? She goes, yeah, boy, why? Get out of here. I go, can I see it? She goes, no, get out of here. I'm like, you can't even do nothing. You can't even come. So I continue, go down in my, you know, basement, and I'm just beating myself up more. So I remember, you know, watching TV and people ODing. And I'm like, wow, oh, we have some aspirin. And luckily, the bottle was only half full. So I went back in my bedroom, and I took all the aspirin I could, and I laid down and go to sleep, and I just sobbed, going, okay, here it is. I did it, you know, it's done now. And I just remember, you know, just going to sleep, and then waking up to just hysteria of people shaking me and trying to talk to me. I couldn't really hear. And my grandmother was, you know, trying to wake me up, and she was trying to talk to me. And then again, I can just vividly remember she looking over on the counter of my bed and seeing a bottle of aspirin, and then looking at me and putting one and one, you know, together, as wise as she is. So she snatched me and took me into the shower and called the ambulance, and they pumped my stomach. And at the time, I was dating a girl that I married, and later on, and we had a child from. And I remember them talking about it, you know, what could he be so upset about? And they're like, oh, well, maybe he got into an argument, you know, with Levita. And I let it go at that. I'm like, okay, I escaped, you know, I let it, them just think that, you know, and not know the real truth. And it kind of, you know, was just a spiral effect of dealing with that for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's some real darkness.
It truly is, yeah, and that's the key word. And I think, you know, and it's sad, because I hear about people committing suicide all the time. And I think one of the last stories I heard was some famous actor, he jumped off of a rooftop. And for me, dealing with that and still dealing with it, my thought is, what type of pain was he going through to actually do that. And what a horrible way to die. And, you know, I know a lot of people, they say, how could you do that? You're selfish. It's truly more of that. It's such a dark battle that you can't handle on your own. And 9 times out of 10, the better of us who are like that, you never know it. We're the life of the party. You know, I remember a joke about this comedian was in town, and this guy, you know, he went to a doctor, and he's like, I'm really depressed, doc. You know, I'm very suicidal, you know, and the doctor said, I got it. I want you to go to see this comedian. He's going to change your life. And he looked at him and goes, I am that comedian, you know. And even like Robin Williams, guy made everyone laugh. I guarantee you that wasn't his first thought of doing that. It doesn't happen like that. But it is his whole life making so many, I remember him from Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, me too.
And just what type of anguish was he really in by himself? And that's it. I can be around 1 million people, but I'm in my own world. I'm going to act. I'm going to do that. I call myself one of the greatest chameleons that, you know, ever was, because I can be everything that you want me to be, but that has nothing to do with what's going on internally. So it's really dark.
Do you think all greatness comes from darkness somehow?
No, I truly know that all greatness comes from him. I truly know that. But we have choice. And that saying that goes, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. There goes the tug of war with evil. So it's always a yin and yang. And throughout my career, I know a lot of people would say, oh, he wasn't mentally tough. Well, obviously that wasn't the case. They didn't know what I was going through. But the thing about it is what I understood, as great as my gifts were, is that the way I looked and how I performed or whatever, my negative was equally as tugging. So that's the part that I had to deal with, that I always struggle with. So no, it's, you know, not to be biblical, but even in the Bible, it says, you know, a light is meant to be put on the top of the hill to light things up, not to be concealed in the darkness. There lies your power. Any actress, you yourself and your talent, it's not to be hidden. It's to be lit up and illuminated to allow other people to see and to believe. So no, it's just that, of course, if you're, you know, I always think about pastors, preachers, and, you know, you always hear a lot of times like their daughters or their son are the worst, or that pastor struggled and did something horrible. It makes sense, because if you get the leader, you get everyone else, they tumble after him, right? So if you're a pastor and you do something horribly wrong, which no one on this planet has never done nothing wrong, the only person who was blameless was killed anyway, right? He didn't do anything and he was killed. So you think you're gonna have a better life than him? So, but if you're a pastor of a huge congregation and you're caused to stumble, now the chance of that entire congregation is gonna stumble. I don't need to go and get the drug addict. He doesn't have any, I already got him. You know what I mean? So that's a dark and the evil. The evil already got the person who's down. I need to go get the guy who's on top in any fashion. And if I get him, then everyone that he's connected to is that domino effect. So it makes complete sense in this game of battle of you know, dark versus light.
And I definitely think that when you see someone at the top of their game or the top of their field, you know, getting there and pushing through all of that hardness. And when I see you, you know, on stage as one of the last 2 guys as Mr. Olympia, like, you know, people could say that, you know, you weren't in it mentally, but come on, you're there.
Yeah.
You've done the work, you've cut the weight, you're performing, you're at the top of your game outwards. Right. And well, we know inside you're battling with all sorts of things. Yeah. That obviously that's coming from there's got to be some darkness in there that's pushing you through that.
Yeah. You know, I just always internalize things, and even, you know, just saying that now, I was doing it before I even thought. I was internalizing when I was on the freeway. Here I am systematically thinking all these things out, internalizing all of them and thinking every step. So I've always been like that, and I've found that I have to accept who I am. Now move on, because I'm not going to beat this guy. I might as well make peace with him, take the battles that I can win, and lose the battles that I can't, and come back and fight another day, because those battles caused me to go and have suicidal thoughts. I can't get this guy. He knows every move before I make it. Make peace with him and move on. So in training in a gym, I was never visual. You know, I know a lot of people that scream and this, that, and other, and they call themselves getting into their game face. I just internalized everything. You know, I would just mentally think about it, and I didn't have to puff up or anything. It's all going on inside. It's like, what's that saying? You know, still waters run deep. You know, so it can be very calm on the top, but there's like turbulence and avalanches and earthquakes going on beneath. You don't see that. That's kind of more the way I was. So inside, I'm going through literally hell, but I'm not going to show you that, because as a child of getting molested and taken advantage of and everything, I learned very quickly that if you show your weaknesses, there's going to be somebody there to exploit it in a bad way. So I quickly became, you know, whatever I needed to be in whatever room, so that I didn't display those weaknesses. And even, you know, the times that you talk about where you seen me, you know, 1 and 2 and battling, I was terrified. Even though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be an expert. I'm going to overdo it. I'm going to like, yeah, I got this. That's not what I'm thinking. You know, I'm thinking, oh my God, damn it. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. They're going to figure out I don't even belong to be here. You know, those were my thoughts. And I remember a lot of times I'd be on stage and I'd tap someone next to me. I'm like, you know, look at this. In my mind, when I tapped them, now you're looking at him, you're not looking at me. I'm trying to take all focus off of me. But to everyone else, I'm being cocky or arrogant. And if I put my arm around somebody, you're not going to look at me. I just projected onto them. So I'm putting my arm around them because I want you to look at them. I don't want you to look at me. So
even
I don't know.
On stage, which is your time to shine. Yeah. It's just a mental battle going on.
It's really, you know, it's really effed up.
And it is really heightened. It's probably just like an MMA fight, because everything's on the line, all the training.
Yeah.
You've been dieting. You're probably out of it mentally, really strained. And that's when you're battling those insecurities, right?
And it's ongoing. I mean, you know, maybe, I think more so than other sports, because even in MMA, there's an off season. Even though they train all year round, they got to start their training even more aggressively when they have a fight. You know, for competitive bodybuilding on a global scale, our off season is our time to get better. And, you know, first contest starts in February, last contest is in November. So you have just these few window times to get better. So there's no off season. You know, we have to eat every 3 hours, 4 hours. That's 24 hours a day. We have to go and rest at certain times. So it was always a lifestyle for me where we couldn't turn off. It's not like you're a football player. Off season, you go off and have a great time. No, I mean, I guess some people manage it that way, but I had to be a creature of habit. I had to stay in this hell to be able to perform. I couldn't go out and look and say, wow, the sun is shining, because now I want to be a part of that. I don't want to be in this. So I had to stay submerged in there, and I had to almost do this reverse psychiatry where I believe that this is normal. Everybody else is effed up. They're out there having a good time. What's wrong with them? I had to convince myself to be able to stay in this harsh environment, but I knew in harsh environment, that's where diamond's created. That's where I'm at my best. Even though I'm incredibly unhappy and everything, I'm at my best. I'm in harmony, I'm training hard, and everything's going really well, but I'm not enjoying it. But I have to understand this is normal. This is a normal world, and everyone else is effed up and they got it wrong. That's the only way I could survive and do that. So it was always constant, and it just, I call it a toilet bowl effect, not to be gruesome, but you flush something down a toilet, it spins and goes down. So my thoughts would, as I'm getting closer to a show, spinning harder and harder, and then I would just go down as I'm on stage, and it would be, I'm just exhausted, and I would give in. And I would come up with these different antics to be able to throw people off, which to them would come across arrogant, and only few people who knew me knew what was really going on. So
that's fascinating.
Either that or just plumb crazy.
You know, you mentioned, you know, the molestation part. Is that hard for a big, strong, tough guy to mention that stuff? I've had a few guests on here. Most recently, John Joseph, who I'm doing this Ironman race with, and he's a tough, hardcore punk lead singer. And he said it took him years to physically write in his book about, you know, being molested. And he said it was the hardest thing to do, but also the greatest thing he did, because it was really freeing.
Yeah.
Do you think about that?
Yeah. No, not when I came to grips about writing. So I was given, I don't know how, and it's just, things happen, right? Things just happen. They align and they're meant to happen. We have choices that we can alter them, but things happen. Everything that you've done to get you here, got you here to the person you are, to be able to do what you do. So I was just offered this book deal. This guy, I was at an event, a global event, and this guy walks by and He goes, wow, you should have this phone number, 1-800-BIG GUNS. I'm like, yeah, if I had a dime for every time I heard that, you know, beat it. And he goes, no, you ever think about writing a book? I'm like, why? I go, who are you? He goes, and he goes, let me know when you want to write a book. Kept bugging me, like every 3 months for 2 years. You ready to write a book? I'm like, so I asked my friend, I go, what should I do? And he goes, don't do it. Don't write it. And his closest friend, his name is Robin Chain. He's like, don't write it. I'm like, why? And he goes, because unless you're going to be honest and tell the truth, don't write it. I go, but Robin, you know me. You know the things I've done. I'm not going to. He goes, don't write it. I go, why? They're offering me money. I'm going to just take the money and run. He goes, for every country that you've been in, that you've done something, you're going to lose those people. You're going to lose that connection because you lied. And everyone that you've done something with in the dark, that's all you have, Flex, is your name. You're going to lose it. So it took me a long time. And finally, when I got sick and diagnosed with my kidney disease, and then I start going back to reading the Bible and everything, and then realizing every last great person in the Bible done something horrific other than Jesus, done something horrific. And I'm like, wow, I never got that, you know. And these are great men who were wrote about biblically, but done, so okay, maybe I'm okay then. I have a chance of being decent, you know. So as soon as I made that, I'm like, I already knew that I just had to tell everything. And from those different stories that I wrote biblically, I could relate to them. So I knew immediately that I had to talk about what I'd done and what I'd been through, because there's people out there that don't have my platform. They're still in the ghetto. They're still going through it. And if I share my story, you know, maybe they can just like, you know, maybe I can make it. You know, he went through the same thing I did, and look at maybe. So I knew I had to immediately. And once that happened, it wasn't difficult. Probably the most difficult thing is my ghostwriter, who I had to sit down and do all these interviews with. It was reliving it, and that was probably the hardest part. And it was even times where she said, I need a break. I'll call you back in a few months, because it was just, you know, it was hard for her, you know, to deal with it. So that was probably the hardest part, is reliving it. But I knew I had to. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant because I was brutally honest about everything I've ever done. It wasn't pleasant, but I don't know. I just always been that type of person, all in or all out. And I knew that was the only way I was going to help people.
Therapeutic in a way?
I think what was more therapeutic was, so this is like pre-internet, right? So I could only communicate through magazines, and always back then, obviously magazines and literature is like 3 months behind, you know, because of publications and all that. So I remember after I wrote my book, I made an announcement in Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazine that I was an athlete for. And I just say I wrote a book. I'm talking about everything, you know. I talking about me being suicidal and molested and homeless and welfare and beaten. You know, if anybody ever been through anything like that, reach me somehow, you know, reach me, and I want to help you. And then to everyone I ever done something wrong, I'm sorry. So what was really most gripping is understanding so many emails of people just been through some, wow. So I was like, okay, so I'm not alone, but this is really sad. I mean, two cases really stand out, and I won't say their names. One was a great MMA fighter who had been through some really horrific things, and he read my book and he contacted me and he goes, you've helped me, you know. And I challenged him, now you go out and help. And he opened up a school. He stopped fighting, and he opened up a school, and this thing was trying to teach kids how to defend themselves, but it was the greater principle of right and wrong. And then there was another kid from Canada, broke up with his girlfriend. He was a teenager, broke up with his girlfriend, ruined him, right? Like most teenagers, they think it's the end of your life, like I did. Ran away from home. He was like middle, upper class, ran away from home, started doing drugs, ended up in, where is the place? Amsterdam. Ended up in Amsterdam, no money. So now he's doing gay things for money, and he's a drug addict. And somehow he would go to this internet cafe and he would email me every once in a while. And throughout months, he would tell me a story and I would respond back and everything. And the last time we talked, I said, you know, why don't you try to go home? He goes, I can't, I'm embarrassed. I go, if you had a son who'd been through everything you've been through, and your son reached out to you and said, Dad, I want to come home, what would you do? And he said, I'd go get him. I said, give your parents that opportunity, man. And last time I heard from him, he had contacted him, went home, and he's doing great. But I'm like, just give him that opportunity, you know? And so it's just, it's sad how many people go through things like that. And even now, speaking in high school, I remember I was asked to speak at my son's high school, and I told my story, and I said, how many people have struggled with suicide? And out of probably 600 students, probably over half put their hands up. And I'm like, so being a dad and understanding myself, being a chameleon, they can just be sitting in your house, your children, you don't know what they're going through. That's frightening. It's a bigger picture going on, you know? So that's the reason why I knew I had to just tell it all, you know? So out of everything I've been through, you know, molested, suicidal, you know, child molestation, homeless, on welfare, made millions, lost millions, bankrupt, made millions again. There's not too many hats I can't put on, and not too many rooms that I can't sit in and be okay. So my thought is, you know, maybe somebody worn one or two of these hats, and if I tell my story, hopefully they can just dare to dream, which is, you know, no pun intended, the name of my book. And that's the reason why I came up, like, because kids, I don't think they dream anymore. You know, I used to go to bed and dream that I could be something, or just dream. Doesn't mean it's going to come true, but I think kids nowadays just dare to dream. That dream is stolen already. And if you can't dream to be something, then what are you left with, you know?
I want to get into all the bodybuilding stuff, but first I want to ask you about a gentleman that had a big effect on your life, and his name was Bruce Lee.
Yeah. As you see, I'm an emotional, you know, person, so you know, forgive me. Even like when I wrote the book, some things that when I talk about just touch me. I can't do anything about it, but yeah, he pretty much saved my life. You know, I remember there was a recreation center. Back then they used to have recreation center like boys clubs, you know, but it was in our neighborhood, and it was just like a place to go to, you know, to hang out. You could play pool or ping pong, you know, we didn't have any of that money. And I remember they would have these movies every once in a while, and they showed Enter the Dragon, and I just sat there and I watched, and I just fell in love with him. I got it. I was like, my God, you know, and here I am, a skinny little punk getting beat up every day, you know, at home and anywhere I walked up, people, hey, come over here, you know, just hand me my ass just for shits and giggles, you know. And right after the movie that they showed us, soon after, they started giving out, you know, free karate lessons. So I signed up, and I was a little too young, but he let me anyway. And that was just the start of it all. Got into martial arts. I love it. It's as my instructor and like my mentor, he's like a big brother, a dad, everything to me. As he explained it, I was 100 times better as a martial artist than I ever could be as a bodybuilder. And he's the one who talked me into going into bodybuilding. He goes, bodybuilding's picked you, do that. So him knowing how good I was, he's like, you're 100 times better fighter, but it was just no money to be made way back then. But man, it was nothing better than that. And one of my greatest honors was Discovery Channel was doing a special on Bruce Lee, and they asked me to come and speak on camera, and I was like, wow. But just, you know, just somebody who just caused a ripple effect. I can't imagine how many people he helped, but I know he saved my life. Yeah, definitely.
And what did you see on the screen? What is probably the greatest movie ever made?
You know what? In his own way, he told a full story. Poverty, people being taken advantage of, people sexually being taken advantage of, and corruption. Pretty much spells out my life as a child. And he fought and prevailed against it and stood for, you know, right, even when I couldn't. As a little, you know, skinny Kenny, I couldn't, but, you know, this person that he was, you know, he could. And even though I had no idea what I was going to become or no dreams of what I could be, at least I could look at him and see something who made it. And I think that just that little seed was somehow watered over years, and I am the person who I am now. And I truly believe that some of the things I was able to go through in bodybuilding is because of the discipline I had, as a martial artist. Just sitting there practicing over and over. It's not a team sport, it's an individual sport. It's discipline. And even my mentor, Ty McGuire, he would challenge me, So first, I couldn't afford to pay him, and I was training at another school, which was Halliburton School. And I seen him at a tournament, and he was just amazing. I was like, oh my God. And he was a few years older than me. He was a million years older than me as far as maturity. But we only separated, I think, like 5 years or something like that. And he said, come to my school, and in 1 year, you'll be the best fighter in California. And in 2 years, you'll be the best fighter, in the United States. Well, in 1 year, I was the best fighter in the United States. And I told him, I said, I don't have any money. He goes, don't worry about it. So he paid for all my school, all my equipment, all my training, and just took me on, as like a son, a mentor and everything. And but he's very mental, very disciplined, very, very disciplinary. And
he's hard on you.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he would hand me my butt, and I remember I would
like physically,
yeah,
like sparring with you, just brutal.
Yeah. And I remember I would ask him sometimes, I'm like, every time I go home, I'm in the shower, my face is burning. And he would never answer me. He would just start laughing and hang up for weeks. And I go, why do you do that? Why do you embarrass me? Why do you laugh? I go, my face stings. Why? And he goes, okay, go home and look in the mirror and pull your skin and tell me what you see. I'm like, all right. So I got off the phone and went and looked at it. I go, I see these little red lines everywhere. And he goes, and he just started laughing again. And I'm like, and he just hung up on me, right? And the next time I'm like, why do you do that? He goes, what do you think those are? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, they're glove burns. I go, what do you mean glove burns? He goes, every time I touch you, it's a slight tear. That's the way boxers, they put on grease on their face. He goes, it's a glove burn. I'm like, why do you do that? Why do you beat me up in front of everybody? Why are you so hard on, if I'm the top student, why do you always make an example out of me? And he said, because I want you to be prepared. If I put you through this, it's nothing that you can't deal with out there. I was like, how come you can't just tell me that? He goes, because you're not ready to hear it yet. You have to live it. And I'm like, wow. And he would test me. He'd call me like 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, let's go practice. And if I said no, he wouldn't talk to me for weeks. I still go to school and everything, but wouldn't be that camaraderie-ship, that father, that mentorship. He would just be just normal. So I just learned just to never say no. I was just like, okay. And we would go and like it's a football field, pitch dark, and we'd just kick up and down the field. Just practice kicking up and down the field. And that's brings me full circle. That's I think the reason why I was able to do what I was able to do on stage, because just what he beat into me, just train hard, be disciplined, never say no, just shut your mouth and do it. So that was just an inner strength that I had. And when people say he was mentally weak or whatever, I didn't have to, growl and show my teeth. It was just internal. I try to let my work, do the example for me, and I didn't have to be one of those bully guys who beat my chest and made everybody uncomfortable. I was actually the opposite. I didn't want to make people uncomfortable. I'm like, I hate that. When you walk in a room and you just I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I don't want to be that. So I would try to be the exact opposite of that. And almost, getting into arguments with people because I would try to be the exact opposite of what they look at. So if they looked at me as if I remember this one guy, very, tall, muscular guy, always intimidated me, but I just never said anything. I just kept to myself. I'd walk by him, and I remember, he just looked at me one day and he goes, you are one intense brother. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, man, you come in the gym, you don't say hi to nobody. I go, but you never said hi to me. I go, so you have to say hi in order to see what type of person I am. I go, but most people just shun me off like I'm irritable. I go, I'm in here working. This is my job. So a lot of people just think I'm a jerk. I'm like, what? You thought that? You never even said anything to me? I go, that makes you the jerk. Because now that you're talking to me, I'm normal. Wow, talking to you, nothing like you like. I'm like, so exactly what did you think I was like? So I just started being, you know, that person, and wrongfully I would project on them whatever image they had of me. I would make it true. If you thought I was a dick, yeah, I'm your dick. Yeah. If you thought I was nice, I would be myself. You know, and I would come up with these sense. Yeah, I'm like the weather. If it's cold, I'll put a jacket on. And if it's hot, I'll take it off. That's how it would be around people, because I just did not want to be put in a box. Don't think I'm something until you talk to me. You know, don't look at me as a black person or a bald-headed person or, you know, a bodybuilder. I'm a human being. I'm just like you. You know, label me that. So.
Was your martial arts instructor doing the right things in retrospect?
He is, 100%. He enabled me to be, and the thing about it, he disciplined me, and he was hard on me in love, not just brutal. I mean, he never hurt me, and he was so advanced to my skills. Even though I was in my division, I never lost. You know, I couldn't do anything when I wouldn't even see it coming. So he had the ability to hurt me. He never did, you know, but when you're throwing something at a certain speed, it's going to touch you. It's going to. So let's go back. So when I went to school, when he invited me, he had me fight their top student to see where I was. And I just demolished the guy. I mean, I didn't know any better. I just ran through him. I stumped him. I picked him up and slammed him. So for him, it was disrespectful. Yeah. So I remember very quietly, he said, you know, I'd finished in a fight, and I said, okay, you know, I'm going to go. He goes, hold on. He doesn't stutter, but I get it now. When you want to be really gentle, you may stutter because you want to come across sloppy. He goes, let's, you know, move around with me a little bit. I was like, okay, you know, and he just touched me everywhere. Never hit me hard, just touched me everywhere. This foot, ding, 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 ding. So as a fighter, you understand any of those, he can knock you out or hurt you, break your ribs, break your nose, but he didn't. He just showed me that was disrespectful what you did. Just because you have the ability, don't mean you do that. And I was humiliated because I'd never been handled like that by nobody. And I remember just walking out of the place insulted, you know. And
in front of everybody who did that.
Yes, you know, but I'm the one who did that, because I didn't just touch the guy. I tried to murder him, you know, in front of everybody. So he taught me a lesson. And through the rest of my life, and even still now, we're great friends. He's continuously teaching me a lesson. So you can be, you know, a brutal person and hurt someone, because you hear a lot of times about MMA fighters, right? Yeah, my brother just handed me my ass, you know, every day, and that made me tough. He didn't do that. He did it the opposite way, but it still made me as equally tough. But he did it in love and respect. So yeah.
If you'd been born 10 years later, you would have definitely been shooting for the UFC.
I would have loved to. Are you kidding? It's no better high. It's no better feeling than moving around. It's just a purest form of respect, and it's just nothing like it. Being able to throw a technique at somebody and them not see it, and then watching it on film, like if I'm throwing a kick and my foot's about this far away, and then you see their eyes light up, it's too late. It's what feeling is that? But I was always respectful. Every person I ever fought and won, I would always pick them up and raise their hand up, because it's respect. But during the fight, I'm trying to hurt you. I'm trying to put you under so much. I'm trying to do what he did to me nicely. So I'm trying to hurt you and cause you just to fail and turn around and walk out the ring. And I'd almost brainwash myself as I'm looking at my opponent. I would stare at him, and I'm brainwashing myself. You should leave. You should not step in the ring. And when they step in the ring, obviously they're going to. I'm like, you really think you can beat me? And I'm effing myself up, and I'm psyched, and I'm yelling like this dude, and I'm scared because maybe he can. So I'm just throwing things at full force as fast as I can, but it's all out of respect. And if I hurt you, or if I break your ribs or your nose, it's because it's the sport. But afterwards, I'd always give them the biggest hug, and I'd always pick them up, because that's how I honor them, and I honor the sport. But yeah, I would have done that in a heartbeat. Man, are you kidding?
Do you ever wish you would have been a professional fighter?
You know what? I won't say I'm smart enough now, but I'm aware that I did what I was supposed to do, and I chose the right path that I was supposed to choose. You know, it's a difference between loving something and wanting to do something and what you have to do. Yeah, it's a huge difference. You know, I think we all need to understand the difference between assets and liabilities. And I think a lot of times we think something's an asset. It's not. It's really a liability, you know, or you choose a sport or a profession that you love, passionately, but it's not meant for you. You know, you look at somebody like Shaquille O'Neal, he wasn't meant to be a tennis player. Say if he really wanted to. So we already know what Shaquille done, or any great athlete, right? Say they picked the wrong sport and they were passionate about it. They weren't going to be good. Usain Bolt, he didn't pick the wrong sport. What if he wanted to be the best tennis player in the world? Well, probably could have, because he's a pure athlete. There's a difference between, but he picked the right path and he excelled in it. And I think when anyone, as yourself, pick the right path, you excelled beyond other people's abilities, because that was meant for you. You're gifted. That was your talent. That was your blessing. But we have the ability to make choice. So maybe, you know, my brother, Darnell, great athlete, incredible, world-class speed, great running back. I sucked. I loved football because my brother played it. I wanted to play it. I sucked. Yeah, it sucked. And when we got to working out, I excelled more than he did. That was just meant, that was my path. And I chose it. Sometimes we just don't choose the right paths. We fall in love with something we're not meant to do. Even relationships, right? Oh, I love you. But that's not the right relationship. Maybe she doesn't love you back, or he doesn't love you back. So just because you want it doesn't mean it's right for you. Mm. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to drop our dream and our passion about something we believe in, and not understanding just because you want it doesn't mean it wants you back.
So let's talk about bodybuilding.
Let's.
Why bodybuilding? When did it first come to your eyes? And what were those first things you remember?
I do. I'd moved to Oakland to stay with my dad, and he bought me, I mean, you know, my nickname then was Skinny Kenny, you know, because when I graduated, I was only 198 pounds when I graduated out of high school. I was just skinny. And
198 is skinny.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm sorry, 98 pounds.
98 pounds.
Sorry, yeah, 98 pounds.
Gosh.
98 pounds I graduated. So.
What do you weigh now?
Wow, now I think, I don't even weigh myself, probably around 220, down from 299.
299 was before competition.
Yeah, okay. yeah, off season. So I went to play football, right? As we talked about before, my dad was a great football player, got a scholarship to Fresno State, football and basketball. So he's a coach. I want to play football, you know, my dad's a coach. And I was so small and skinny that the insurance for the school wouldn't cover me because I was that great of a risk. So he goes, you know, embarrassingly, they put him to have to do, he goes, son, you know, so just go in the weight room while we're out in the field, and you know, we'll go home when we're done. And I just kind of enjoyed it, and I kind of responded. And he ended up buying me, back then it was a 110-pound weight set. It was a plastic with the cement in it.
Yeah, I remember those.
And it was my dream to be able to bench press 110 pounds, and I just couldn't. I was just couldn't. Everybody else could, but that was the beginning of it, you know. And I jokingly say, I got to be careful with that, but I jokingly say, you know, little boys play with dumbbells and little girls play with Barbies. You know, normally.
You can't say that anymore?
Well, you want to be respectful for everybody and their decisions, so that's just my point. But so that's how it started, and it just snowballed into, you know, I played other sports, and I continue, you know, in martial arts, and I played other sports, but I just didn't excel, you know, the same. And even, you know, fast forwarding back to Thai, winning all these tournaments, you know, we would still work out with weights afterwards, and I was still competing, and I won Mr. California, you know, in bodybuilding, and on a Saturday, and then at Sunday I went and fought in the California Championship, and I won that. And I was just torn. I was like, man, which do I do? And he's like, you do the one which chose you. I go, which is that? How do I know? And he goes, bodybuilding chose you. I go, how? How do you know? And he goes, because you have more avenues to be able to become something in bodybuilding than you do in martial arts. And you got to remember, back then, this is a 89 or so. Back then, if you're a great martial artist in a movie, you would go out and do all these flamboyant kicks to establish yourself as a martial artist. Then a star just knocks you out with one punch, and you're out. So it was very disrespectful for us back then. And you didn't get no money because you're out of the scene. So, but in bodybuilding, there was an avenue to make money. So he's like, you know, bodybuilders chose you. And I'm like, how could you say that to me? And he goes, you know, I see it. You don't see it, but I see it. Just like in martial arts, I've seen it. And he was right. Yeah.
He's like the
Yoda
guy in the
or
Bruce
something.
Lee movie, really, right?
Yeah, he is. And
super wise.
yeah,
and
yeah, just beyond his time. And it still is, still teaching me to this day. Still teaching me to this day with different things, philosophy and just thought process and being prepared and aware and all that stuff still is. But, you know, I mean, it's so many people like him in my life that's helped me. You know, I not reading a lot because I'm dyslexic. There's one quote that just stands out, and I've always used it for Sir Isaac Newton, and it's, if I've seen farther than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I'm like, that's me, because I'm nothing. The only reason you can see me is if I stood on the shoulders of these people way greater than me, and I could look beyond what they could see because I'm on their shoulders. And that's just me. I've just had so much tremendous help throughout everything I had, or else I wouldn't be here. And I'm still having help, you know, I wouldn't be here now, you know. So my biggest thing is just trying to pay it forward when I can. It's the only way I can give back to all those great people who helped me.
How old are you when you decide to go all in on bodybuilding?
22, 21, 22.
Okay. And what are those first few years like? When do you start really knowing?
So I won the California Championship, which is a state level show, and that was really like a big thing, but I was just oblivious to the sport. I didn't know anything. And then I went and competed in the Nationals in 91. In 90, and I got my ass handed to me. And I was like, wow, I took 5th, but you know, to me, there's first and there's last. No one goes into a show for second. There's first and there's last. And that was my harsh mentality. First and there's last. I'll be happy with second or third. Now that I'm retired, I'm really happy with second, but not then. So it was hard because I always ran up against talent that was better than me, or not better than me, but more advanced than me, had been there longer. And it seemed like I just kept running into that over and over. Every show I'd go into is a guy who's been there longer, and I would lose. And it was just breaking my heart. You know, I'm an emotional guy. I would sit there, and I'm sure you heard stories. I would throw my trophy in the garbage, or, or just sob on the stairs of where the competition was. And I was actually going to go back and become a police officer again, because I'm like, I can't afford to do this anymore. I need a job. I just being a bouncer at Roxbury nightclub, which you heard of, I'm sure, that's not going to get it. That's a
I haven't heard of Roxbury. Should I have?
Roxbury in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a premier nightclub back in the days where all the celebrities and stars, used to hang out. Everybody who you thought was great was there. But anyway, that's another story.
Good gig?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just rub shoulders with greatness the whole time. I mean, whoever was an A-list actor or a premier athlete walked through the door. And being that we worked there and we were, bouncers, we had power over them. So we'd sit there and say, you can come in, you can't. Even like, well, I guess it's true, but even like, what's her name? I'm having a problem thinking right. Jennifer Lopez, back when she was a fly girl, we wouldn't even let her in. Like, no.
She was just a fly girl.
Yeah, but she was no. But we just had the power of choice. It's very degrading when you think about it. Now, I would never stand outside a club and have, you can come in, you can come in. Like, I couldn't do that, but it was an in thing back then, right? But so it was really rough, and I kept running up against talent who were just, a little bit ahead of me. And finally, in '92, I had my big break where I won, and that kind of, set my, my precedence of being there. And I won the USA in '92, and then I ended up winning my next 4 pro shows, which put me in a Guinness Book of Records. And that record actually is probably one that I'm most proud of because it hasn't been broken yet. So I'm the only IFBB pro in history to win 4 straight pro shows. And unlike now, where you may not meet number 1 or number 2 until the big event, back then they all competed. So my first pro show, my pro debut, I competed against Vince Taylor, who was ranked number 2, and I defeated him, even not knowing what I was doing. I was like, wow, they got this wrong. This is Vince Taylor. They got this wrong. And then the next weekend, it was against Vince Taylor and Lee Labrada. So now you got number 2 and number 3 guy there. And I ended up winning that, and then went on and went in 2 more shows. So no matter what I didn't achieve, whoever's going to break that record haven't even turned pro yet, because they're going to have to win 4 straight victories. So that kind of just started everything going for me for 93, but then 94 was not a good year.
All right, well, we'll talk about that. Tell me about bodybuilding. For people that don't know the sport, that don't know what it's like, what is it really like on the inside? What is it like to do that every day? It's a different mindset, obviously, than martial arts, but what would we be surprised to learn about what it really is?
It's extremely disciplined. You have to be highly disciplined to evolve in it, and you have to have a greater understanding of yourself and just nutrition and everything, because we have to know how to eat and when to eat, and really reading our bodies, understanding if we're eating too much or not. So the true statement is your body communicates with you every day, and it tells you everything. You just have to be in tune to listen. So we're not good at listening to our bodies. We're good at making our bodies do what we want it to do. But eventually it's going to win. So as you start to get sick and you continue to prevail, eventually your body's going to win. It's going to put you in a bed. I won. Now you're going to listen to me. So in bodybuilding, or even at a higher level of fitness, we have to listen, and we have to understand that, when to back off, how much more food to eat, how much water to intake, which is very dangerous when we start playing around water. But we have to have that understanding, and we're the lightning rod to it, because there was no technology back when we were doing it. We had to put on our own little white coat and go in and play doctor and everything like that. So I think our sport probably gets the worst backlash. Is 9 times out of 10 we're only being seen or interviewed at a show where we're like 2% body fat or 3% body fat, and we're dehydrated. So, and we're at the peak of our exhaustion. So like you said, we're out of it. And here you shoving a microphone in our face. So, we don't really probably seem highly intelligent. And I think the last thing is, it's a sport that will reveal to you who you are. So being that it's so hard, it's easier for people to write it off. Just like the old lady who used to look really good, and looking at the young, beautiful, I used to look like you. Just wait till you get my age. That's an scapegoat. You have no excuse. Just because you're that age doesn't mean you have to take care of yourself. So it's easy to sit there and point at someone else because I just highlighted your weakness. If behind closed doors you don't know that, you know that you don't look good, or maybe you're not happy with yourself, and you see this beautiful woman, or this nicely dressed person, or this well-looking, physical fit specimen is walking by, he's just highlighted your weakness. So either it's going to take a very strong man to say, wow, you look great, son, or, yeah, I used to look like, anybody can do that. You're full of drugs. It's a write-off. It's an scapegoat. So what you really did is expose how weak you are as a person. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just human nature. The majority of people do it. It takes a very, confident man or woman to walk up to another and like, wow, man, that's great. You inspire me. Because 9 times out of 10, like F off, because it's easier, right? So
you're constantly dealing with kind of that negative, even vibe if they're not verbalizing it.
100%.
Right.
You see it.
In bodybuilding, the easiest thing for them to say is, oh, it's the drugs.
It's the drugs, 100%.
It's drugs, right.
100% it's the drugs. Which I laugh because, I come from the era of Barry Bonds and Balco Laboratory and that whole scandal. And Victor Conti is a very, very close friend of mine. So I was able to witness it from the media aspect and talking to him, knowing what's really going on. And I remember getting kind of thrown in the whole shebang because I was associated with him. So I would get interviewed. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Drugs is cheating. I'm like, how is it cheating? Well, you guys are using drugs. I'm like, okay, but all of us are. So again, how is it cheating? Well, it's using drugs is illegal. I'm like, oh, okay. So does that make it dangerous? Yeah, it's dangerous. Oh, all right. Because last time I checked, cigarettes are more dangerous. Is it okay because it's legal? And what is one of the biggest cliches that we have in the United States? Take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. So if I decode that, take some drugs, leave me alone, and I hope they work, call me tomorrow. So we're living in a drug-induced environment already, but what I do to take care of myself and to make a living and try to take care of my family and income is bad because I take these drugs, but you're not bad because you smoke. That's okay because it's legal. Or because you drink alcohol. I remember when alcohol was illegal. Why is it legal now? Because they figured out a way to make money off of it. It still is bad. I go, and so then they get really upset when you get deep with them. I'm like, wow, I think people have probably killed more people drunk driving than any bodybuilder has taking their drugs. He goes, well, you're hurting your body. I'm like, and smoking and drinking isn't? Let's get to the bigger picture. Let's get to the bigger, playing field. What about cocaine and all the bigger drugs? So the majority of, all of you guys do that, but is it because it's upper class? If you talk about that, you might be walking into some president's office or some mayor's office, some government office. So you keep that, so what's really more important, just to highlight what you think is bad? Or should we all say it's all bad? You're an adult, you clean your backyard, I'll clean my backyard. I'll stay in my lane, you stay in your lane, but it's easier for you to do that because you don't want to touch on those things. And then the camera gets turned off, so I don't condone it at all. It's sad, but it is here and it's going to stay. It's not going anywhere.
You don't condone what?
Drug use.
Drug use in any form. Yeah.
No. It's not. I think all kids, whether it's football. I mean, at my level, I was honored to be able to sit in rooms with so many great athletes. I'm talking people played in Wimbledon, golf course, the Olympics. It's all one common ground. There's a drug that will help you in every aspect. I was shocked. In Wimbledon, I was talking to somebody and I was like, how, why? And he goes, Flex, majority of the time we win based on strength and speed, ability to serve, and you can't get to the ball in time. And I'm like, so it clicks because I know it's a drug for that.
Right. A certain type of steroid or something else that will just help with that one.
And what I stopped doing, like 20 years ago, is just using the word steroids. I remember my son was on steroids because he had asthma. So when you say steroids, really, what are you saying? So I stopped belittling the word because it don't mean anything. I start using this word called, sports technology drugs because it's highly tech. And if you go back in history, we didn't do it. Last I checked in my history, it was going on back in Hitler's days. Drugs of performance were used for SS troops to be able to do things that humans ought not do. So it was going on way back then. And I even remember back in the NFL days where, the commentator were like, yeah, they're good old country fed boys. They're all averaging, 290 pounds with, 26-inch necks. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't there, but I knew it was present and ability to have it. So yeah, I mean, it's just, that's really the world we live in right now. I mean, even worse now where you got Botox and everything else. Again, I don't care. You're a grown up, you're responsible, do whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting anyone. But don't say that this is so horrible when, if anything, is hurting that person. Now, the facts are, I can take 100 or an overdose of any quote unquote steroid. I'm not gonna die. Months later, I might have complications. Years later, I might have complications. I may or may not pass away from that because there's surgery you can have, but I can give you too many aspirins and kill you dead, right? I can give you so much alcohol in a matter of hours and kill you dead. Really? What's more dangerous? I can give you so many birth control and kill you dead. All things that you can buy over the counter. Yet this is really so bad. Now fast forward, it's a contraceptive. You go in, your doctor give you a shot, and it's a contraceptive. Oh wow, so it's okay now? Things that we have been doing all our career. So I'm a kidney transplant patient, which we can get into later. Some of the things I had to take were the same things I used to be on stage. EPO, different drugs. I'm like, why do I have to do this? This is what it was really made for. These are just side effects of what it done. So I don't like playing games. If we're going to be real, let's be real. Yeah, the world is effed up with drugs. Let's go at it. But don't just pick a certain sport because it's like I don't even want to say blackball of the sport because I don't want to use my color in a condescending or negative way, because it's always done that way, right? Oh, you're blackball, be afraid of the dark, all that stuff. So it's just bad. So I don't condone it in any way. And I think in any pure form, a child starts a sport because it's innocent, right? Parents are there videotaping my kid's soccer, football, whatever. But as I've always believed that athletes were born, we're driven. You can't make an athlete. It's just something in our DNA. It's our choice whether we do something about it or not, but it's our DNA. So being that you're so highly competitive, as you mature and grow up, you start hearing these things of people that you idolized. So it becomes normal to make that choice and do that because you're pushing for greatness. And only, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later do you remove like, damn, how did I become that? You know, but you're full in. That was one of my biggest epiphanies when I retired in '99 because of my kidney disease. I found out I had a kidney disease and I retired. And that was difficult for me. I went on and I competed 2 more years, and I walked away off stage, I think in 2001. And I came back in 2003, and I wanted to compete natural, try to right the wrong. But it was my friend, Rico Mitch Clinton, close, dear friend and training partner, you know, my whole career. We went to a show that I won before the Ironman. I won it a record 5 times, and we're sitting in the audience, and my other training partner, Chris Cormier, won the show. And Rico looked over at me, he goes, damn, Flex. He goes, you could place in a top 5 the way you look right now. And I'm looking at him like, and I was insulted. I'm like, what do you mean top 5? I go, why would I want to go up there and get my ass handed to me? I own the record. I won this show. So this is me being a very twisted, condescending, typical ass, right? Why would I do that? He goes, what? I go, Rico, why would I want to go up there and freaking place in a show that I own? So afterwards, we went to the gym, and he brought up, he goes, damn, Flex. He goes, seriously, the way you look right now, man, natural, you could walk up there and place in a top 5. You wouldn't want to do that? I'm like, hell no. Why would I want to go up there and get humiliated in front of everybody? Every time I did that show, I won. Are you kidding me, Rico? And my close friend looked at me and goes, so you're telling me you won't compete because you can't take drugs anymore because of your kidney? I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not, I guess. He's like, Flex, man, you're not an athlete. You're a drug addict. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to beat him because he hit me, struck me deep, and it was true. Wow. And and he's so much more mature than I am. We're the same age. He's so much more mature than I am. He turned around and just walked away because he knew me. He knew I was going to be angry and want to fight. And one of his things, he doesn't fight friends. Me, I'm anal. I'm wired differently. It's wrong, but yeah, I would. And he's mature enough. He just turned and walked away. And it struck me so deep, I went home and I grappled with it. One problem I have is whether I think you're right or wrong, I will grapple with your thought. It's just me. And I just grappled with it. And the next day I walked in, I said, man, you really think I can do good? And he goes, yeah, man, I think you can. I was like, all right, we'll start training hard, but we just won't say nothing to nobody. And here's the thing, if people start looking at me and saying, wow, Flex, you getting ready to compete again? Then we know that we're on. If they look, I'm like, yeah, Flex, man, you look good to be natural. Then we know, don't take your ass up on stage because you're not going to be competitive. So we start banging really hard and comments, wow, man, you looking good. You thinking about coming back? And I knew I didn't want to take drugs because I took a different stance. And so I said, I got to figure out a way to play on words because I need sponsorship, you know, because it's expensive. So I said, you know what? I started answering people like, you know what? I'm going to do everything in my ability to win. So you're going to go back all at it? I'm going to do everything I can to win. So for them, they're thinking I'm going to do anything. I'm just saying within my limits, and I have a limit now, I'm going to do everything I can to win. So when I start talking to sponsors, so you coming back, you for real? I'm like, yep, I'm coming back to win. I'm coming back to be the best I can be. All right. So to them, they're thinking I'm going to go back full bore. But no, that's not what I was never saying. I had a limit, and I wanted to be the best I could be at that. So.
And how was that, training natural?
It was enlightening. I was really happy. I was shocked the way I responded. And I know we did Rico's wife at the time was a director and been in some movies before. So she shot a video and we put it into back then it was a cassette, of the whole thing of me getting ready and just having private conversations with me and all that stuff. And even well, we'll get to that fast forward. So I competed and I placed 8th. No, I placed 7th in Olympia. So for me, I'm thinking, wow, I placed 7th in Olympia natural going up against all these guys. I'd placed 8th before, fully on, because I was really off. But then the athlete part of me got a hold to me. I went back to my room. Everybody was happy, and all my friends were there, and we're like, "Wow, you look great, man!" And I went back to the room, and I remember sitting in my shower, just sitting, with the shower on, just sitting on a floor, sobbing, because that competitive part was kicking my ass. Dude, you got your ass handed to you. Last time you were on that stage, you were 2nd. You're 7th place now. Are you kidding me? And there it goes again, that same old me coming out to beat me up, and I remember, even though I had the kidney disease, I had to go to the hospital later on that night because my kidneys had shut down. So she actually came in, and that was the end of the tape, having me do an interview in the hospital. And that was a rude awakening for me, because then I realized that it wasn't the drugs, it's everything. And the doctors, he goes, you can't do this ever again. I'm like, but I didn't take no drugs, I didn't take no accelerants, I didn't take no diuretics. Why did this happen? And he just told me things I knew already. He goes, what happens when you work out? I was like, it's muscle tear down. He goes, where does that go? Your filtration system. He goes, well, what is that? My kidneys. Can't handle it. Just going in the gym, banging out hard, that waste, your body can't handle anymore. I was like, jeez. So it was enlightening though. Yeah, it was enlightening. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Wow, hard to hear.
Yes and no, because it helped me to become the person who I am. And if you hear that old saying, iron sharpens iron. So if you visually look at iron sharpening iron, there are sparks, right? Heat to make something better. So, now if we were a human being and there were sparks and heat, that means that would equate to pain, suffering, crying, to make something better. So, yeah, that's okay.
And so when you're competing, your take on it is it's sports technology, and everyone's using that sports technology.
There were a few, even in my height, there were a few athletes who stood strong and didn't use anything, but 99.9%, yeah.
And you had Victor Comte as well, which helped because he was on the cutting edge. I think he's a really fascinating dude.
Yeah.
And there was no internet back then.
No. So Victor helped me actually in a whole different way. So what he taught me is, because we never talked about drugs, because he knew I was more advanced than him when it came to that.
And where did you learn it from?
Trial and error.
Right, lab coat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way everyone did it back in the day.
Yes.
Including,
so everyone. Yeah, everyone. So what he taught me is things I wasn't aware of, trace minerals, the importance of it. He educated me like, it doesn't matter what you eat, what drug you take. If you're deficient in vitamin D or any trace minerals, your body is not going to perform. You're just throwing things in a waste tank. And also he did this rare study about myostatin, where he spent millions of dollars testing all these great elite athletes from all different sports. And he came up with this understanding that some of us have a myostatin gene that's distorted, that allows us to get more muscular than others. And out of everyone, I'm including Ronnie and Dorian and everyone, I was the one who had the most rarest gene. And it goes back to, I remember as a kid, they're like, wow, you walk in the gym and you just breathe weight and it looks like you grow. Now we understand, no, it was something to that, it was just a gift, that I had. So that's how he really, that's how he really helped me. But the biggest way Victor really helped me is, so he dealt with elite athletes. And as I've said all along, I had these issues mentally that I had to deal with from my childhood. So one of the things that he helped me to understand, he goes, all of you guys are like that, Flex. So I won't say none of the names, but he goes, so-and-so and so-and-so. He goes, all you great athletes have an adversary that is equal to your greatness, and you all struggle with it. He goes, there's a yin and yang. And I'm like, really? He goes, trust me, you're all like that. That's the reason why you exceed. because you guys are like that. You push yourself to the brink. And that just helped me just, when I would get to that apex where I'm just about to fall over, I remember that. I'm like, and it just helped me get through the next day, next week, next year, years. But I thought I was the only one. I thought I was effed up. You know, I just thought something's wrong with you. You know, why can't you do things right? Why are you always beating yourself down? How come you never can be happy about nothing? And he helped me understand, no, all you great athletes are like that. All great people are like that. They're never happy. They're never satisfied, and they're overdriven. That'd be you. And there's no comfort, you know. And even, you know, my friend I told you earlier, Robin Chain, he helped me to understand, no, you're a personality. Everything you go hard, you're never happy, and 9 times out of 10, we die younger than everybody else. You know, we don't live our full life expectancy because we're always pushing and we're never happy. And you almost listen to every great person. Yeah, they never stop. It's like a double-edged sword. Cuts one way in greatness, cuts the other way in hurting you. Yeah.
Did you see that in guys you shared the stage with, including Lee Haney, Dorian, Ronnie?
Lee was before me, and even to this day, Lee is just, he's in a class of his own.
He seems like such a happy guy.
Regal, yeah. I talk to him still now. I mean, the guy, he married his high school sweetheart and never been with no one else. And you hear about everyone. You hear about everybody in your industry, good or bad. Never heard nothing about Lee. He was just a man's man. I mean, just the epitome of what a real champion is supposed to be like, champion on stage and champion off stage. And I'll share a story with you about Lee. We're in Brazil, and he was invited by my company to be a special guest. So he's in the next room, and he doesn't know he's in the next room to me, in a room, you know, you can hear it. So he's talking on the phone to his wife like they're in high school, giggling. I'm like, my God, that's real love and strength. Jeez, this guy is still teaching me lessons off stage. So he was ahead of my time. Dorian and Ronnie, well, me and Ronnie are super, super close, always have been. Even when we were competing, he would stay at my house, I would stay at his. Dorian, we knew each other, but we were opposite. You know, we had a normal amount of respect for each other, and even though we were two extreme alpha males in a number of different ways, because I knew his background before he got into bodybuilding, and that bothered me. You know, we talked about that.
His background? Yeah.
Dorian's kind of white supremacist type situation.
Was he hanging out with some of those?
He was a part of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I know he used to wear the dress. I don't know how far
he had the tattoos. He had them removed. So I even asked him, we were somewhere guest posing, and I placed second beneath him. And he'd always, I remember when he came to the United States, he had won the Night of Champions, and we'd heard of this guy, you know, just like, my God, this Englishman, who was great. And next thing you know, he's walking into Goes to Venice, and I'm like, that's him. And I'm just taking, you know, I'm not a pro yet. I'm just looking at him like a giddy kid. And he walks over and goes, hey, Flex, how are you? I'm like, hey, Dorian. And from there on, it was just mutual respect. So we were somewhere and we were guest posing together, and I had to ask him, like, so I heard these rumors. He goes, you know what, man? He goes, we all make mistakes. And right then, I left it alone, because we all have made mistakes. He goes, I'm not like that anymore. And if you are conscious of what you done wrong, you can't push nobody no further, because you know what you done wrong. So I left it alone. You know?
I know he went to prison because he was, you know, broke in some store. I know he used to dress like a skinhead, but then I also know he's got the tattoo of Bob Marley on his shin. Later in life. Okay.
Yeah, the other ones were removed. Yeah, he had them removed. But, you know, whether it's tattoos or Dorian, anyone, whether you publicly have or not, we've all done things that we're ashamed of, and that's what I allocated that towards. But me and Ronnie, no, we were just incredible friends, and still was, and our friendship was tested when he ended up defeating me, because I always won. And you know, he ended up asking me some questions, and I answered him, and it helped him a lot, and he ended up becoming champion and taking the reins and running with it, and that tested our friendship. But we were friends. I mean, even when he was taking, you know, first place, and I was taking second, he would be at my house that Sunday, you know, spending the night hanging out. And that never bothered me. I never got angry that a person won. They're just trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. Why would I be mad at this guy? To me, that's a pure sign of a real weak punk. You're going to go and attack this person's character because they're better than you. He's trying to feed his family. He's trying to be the best in the world. He's trying to do the same thing I am. Why would you deface him? Why would you deface anyone or badmouth? What did they do to you other than win? You know, I even jokingly used to say, it's not like I'm in an MMA fight and I beat you down and taunted you. But after talking to them, I'm like, no, Flex, it's not even that. It's still respect amongst that. But they're just trying to do the same thing. So I never believed in that talking crap about somebody else. Or really, it's a subjective sport. There's 7 judges down there. Go talk to them because they're the ones who made the decision. If you're really a man, go take it to them. Don't, you know. So when Ronnie won the first time, everybody would always ask me, what did you say to him, you know, on stage when you gave him a hug and he fell on the ground? I said, man, I love you, and congratulations. I go, you know, I'm not going to be at your victory party, right? He goes, I know. I go, and it goes, why? And I go, cuz I'm brokenhearted. I feel like crap. Why am I going to go there and sit in a corner, you know, bloating when this man is trying to have a great time? And if he's my real friend, that's going to be a drain on him. So take my butt back to my room and eat my pizza and hang around my gloom and doom. That's respectful, but don't piss on this man's parade. So, yeah, we great friends then and still now.
And that was 98.
98,
so
the
Dorian
first time.
had dropped out and retired. Yeah. And that was the year
I was supposed to win everything.
You were supposed to win that one.
Yeah.
And you had an incredible stage routine, and you are looking amazing, and you worked so hard.
But I didn't.
But you didn't.
But I didn't, and I'm sure you know that already. I mean, I sabotaged myself. It was always something inside me that I never believed that I could be number one. But it was weird when it came to the Honor Classic and the Ironman. It was like, you need to come get this because I'm not giving it up. But that wasn't a number one show. The Olympia was, and I don't know. I didn't realize it until 98 when he won. And I used to dress like, back then it was like Michael Jordan wear was really big, and I would wear like really nice Michael Jordan wear, you know, to the gym, train, and then go to the strip club right afterwards. I'm not on my game. I'm not taking my butt back and resting and eating my meals. I'm hanging out. And I would sabotage myself by doing these things. And I would hear all this talk, you know, yes, Dorian's retired. You're number 2 now. You're going to own everything. And it was weight on me. And I couldn't handle it. And I just ran from it. I never understood why. And I remember in 98, we were all laying on the floor in, you know, in separate rooms. And I can't remember the athletes that were in a room with me, but they're all caliber beneath me, you know, real far beneath me. And they're talking about how they think they're going to win. And I'm laying there with my eyes closed and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How come you can't believe in yourself like that? What is wrong with you, man? I just got so angry and pissed with myself. It's like, you F this off. Yeah, I go, but you're going to take your ass out there and you're going to fight and you're going to do everything you can to try to win, but you F this off already. So I just went out there and gave it everything I had. And, you know, I came up short. And then in 99, I didn't, you know, I just trained. I was just a pure animal, just pure focus. And I lost again. And, you know, this time I was 17 pounds heavier. In 1 year, that's not normal to put on 17 pounds of muscle and come in way better shape. And Ronnie this time was just maybe, if he was 100% in 99, he was probably 98 and 99. So as soon as I took my clothes off, we're all backstage. Everybody's like, oh my God, dude, you won, you got him. I'm like, I got his ass. And I go out there, so in 98, he wins by 3 points. So I'm like, I got 3 points, I got it. And everybody's like, you know, we're all celebrating and we go out on stage and he ends up winning with a perfect score. I'm like, huh, okay. So that helped me to understand. First, I finally realized that your perception of me don't make me who I am. You're all proceeding to be me to be number 2, and you're putting me these medallions on me that represents number 2. So I took them off. I'm like, and I'm looking, I'm like, no, I'm number 1. You know, you're not gonna make me feel like I'm a failure, like I'm a loser. So I'm like, these are, it says number 2. I go, but I'm number 1. I'm not gonna allow you to project on me that you think I'm number 2. And part of my analogy was that because it's happened before, in all types of sports, where a person gets ranked number 1, a person gets ranked number 2. Oh, we made a mistake. So before that happens, the person who won celebrating, him and his team, and the other person feels crushed. Oh, we made a mistake. And they switch him. Now all of a sudden, he's crushed and they're celebrating. Why? There was no difference other than what they said. And that just hit me like the floodgates. I'm like, it's not going to happen anymore. No way. I'm not number 1. Number 2. I'm number 1. And that's the way I just took it from there. You know, and I just realized that, no, you can't weigh me down with your perception of who I am. You know, I need to be stronger than that. And for the first time also, that Kenny and me, I was starting to defeat him now. Because remember, he was always beating me up. You know, you suck, you this, you that. And I was like, no. So that was my beginning of my battle with myself.
You were starting to win that even though your bodybuilding career was ending.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And have you ever gotten your head around the sabotaging yourself? And was that your whole career in the 90s? Do you think you were partially doing that?
No, I think it just is my core of just my battle that I've always had as my childhood. So the way I try to analyze it is that, you know, before when viruses came to computers, we didn't know what was going on, and our computers would act out of context, and we didn't understand, but it was something behind causing it to happen. We couldn't see what was behind. We only see what was in front of us. So now I understand it was what was going on with me throughout my life that was playing a role behind, that was using me as a puppet. And that was just a battle that I had to get through, and still do get through now. I'm just better at it than I was then. But yeah, I just ran away. You know, that was just me, you know, fight or flight, and I would just take flight, you know, sometimes instead of standing there and fighting. I have no idea, but you know, what I have to do now, what I've learned to do is accept that is me, that was me, that is a part of who I am, and I can't beat that guy up. I can't beat him down. I'll lose. Accept who you were, accept who you are, now move on. Sometimes you just have to. So, you know, I do these things, and I always did. I have to look at myself in a mirror, and for me, it's hard to make eye contact with people. I know in business, make eye contact, shake their hands, and if you don't, you know, you're up to something. No, it's I can't hide these, and if you stare, you know, long enough and deep enough, you see things that I'm trying to shield from you. So I always would, you know, go home and I have to stare at me. It was very difficult for me to actually look in the mirror and see who that person is. And I had to start looking at that person, recognizing who he is and what he wasn't, and accepting that. And only then could I move on. And that's the hardest things, I think, as human beings globally. It's so easy to put fault on someone else. Go back home and analyze yourself the way you analyze somebody that you don't like. Chances are you're going to hate yourself more. I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the things that I did. I didn't like the lifestyle that I was living. And it was hard to stare at that guy. So I guess I want to kill that guy instead, or kill him off. So in I guess a dark way, I thought killing him off meant killing him. No, accept he is and move on. Therefore, you took all his power away, and he's dead. He still lives. He's still a little virus running back there, but now I have these little, we all come up with these different ways of dealing with things. Some people put them in a box. I can't do that. That box is still there. It's going to bother me. I need to open it and deal with it. But you just figure out ways to deal with things. And even if it's just dealing with it for a second, then it becomes a minute, then years went by and you dealt with it. And you just keep dealing.
Mm-hmm. And in the 90s, a lot of this came out in your personality.
Did.
Which was, and you probably see this in people all the time, the brash, the arrogant, the life of the party one. You probably are like, okay, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, and to the point now where even my videos and interviews, I can't even watch them. When I perform, if I watch me performing, I have to turn the volume down because I can't stand to hear my voice because it's just an ass, just so full of himself, and I can't stand those type of people. You know, that makes, like I said, that makes people feel uncomfortable.
Right, and you were good at that.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it was all to protect Kenny, because Kenny always got his ass handed to him. So not even knowing it, even though other people wiser than me figured it out before I did, I remember people telling me, "You got like 6 people in there." What do you mean by that? You Sybil or something? He goes, "No, you're worse." But now I get it. Yeah, I create all these. I think I said it to you earlier. If it's hot, I put on a jacket. I mean, I take off a jacket. If it's cold, I put on a jacket. Those are all my different personalities that I would deal with. If you're that type of person, I would be that personality. If I needed to hide from you, I would pull out another personality. So this Flex Wheeler, you know, not knowing it at all, was built this outer ego to protect who I really was, because this other guy got his ass handed to him. So not knowing it, I created this liver than life alter ego that, you know, put up this huge barrage and had the ability to back it up if had to, but put up this barrage that people wouldn't even try to penetrate, you know. And I remember millions of times being told that before you even get in a room, you know, your atmosphere is here already, you know, bothering people. And I'd be like, what do you mean?
Before you get there.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you mean by that? But now I get it. I get it. It's an energy that you put off. Just like the life of the party. They have such an energy, all inviting. Casino is a great movie, right? When he's walking around, just the life of the party. It's an energy. You make people feel good. You can do the same thing by making them feel bad, uncomfortable, insecure. And probably by the way I looked, if you weren't, you know, happy with the way you looked, I made you feel insecure that way, and I didn't hide it. Not trying to belittle you, I'm trying to protect the guy inside. And that's what I always seen. When I looked in the mirror, I never seen Flex. I always seen Kenny, you know, and I always, you know, probably went harder because of that. You know, I would never, you know, take my shirt off or walk around, you know, the beach or anything like that. I even remember, you know, when I was dating someone, you know, this person would always say, you know, let me see what you look like. And I'd be like, no. Because I never thought I was good enough. I literally would try to talk and get out of photo shoots. All my great photo shoots, I never wanted to go because I always thought I looked like garbage, and they'd have to talk me into it. Some of the greatest photographers became my psychiatrists. They would just say the right things just to get me there, and I'd just go on autopilot. Okay, fine. Yeah, what do I need to do? Okay, yeah, great. All right, I'm done. Thanks. Okay, see ya. And now I look back at those photos and they're iconic, and I'm like, wow. But I think, you know, a journey of 1,000 miles start with one step, and all the steps that I took back or forward helped me to get to the destination I am now, which will help me get to whatever next destination is going to be.
And in a weird way, you're kind of the light now on the hill, and that you can say these things, and people listen to you because of all of this pain you went through and doing all the things you didn't want to do, but it's because you're Flex, and that you did all these great things in the 90s, and yet now the message is different.
Yeah.
So in a weird way,
I'm blessed. I really am. I mean, I don't look at it as negative. Wow, I mean, I went through some incredible things. Why? I'm still here. You know, kidney transplant recipient, you know, going on 14 years with the most rare and deadliest kidney disease known to man. There's no cure. And I've met parents who've had, you know, a child that's 13 or 14, they go in and get their kidney transplant and they leave because the disease that ravaged their new kidney. So it doesn't go away. I'm still here. If you don't know my history, you wouldn't think I'm sick at all. And I'm able to travel the world. I'm able to, you know, inspire. I'm able to be on your show. So yeah, that's a blessing, is it not? That's a blessing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think, you know, there's worse that at the end of the day, if you lived, you're going to go through some things, good and bad. You're going to go through some horrific things. But at the end of the day, at least I can say this is what I achieved, you know, because you're going to go through them at all. And no matter what, there's people who die, drug addicts, ghettos, failures, whatever. They went through the same hardship. So I went through those hardships, and now here I am. So that's a blessing. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's a blessing, man. So, and that's the way I have to look at it. It truly is. Because for some reason, certain people aren't here anymore. We don't know them, you know. Prince, you know, Michael Jackson, you know, Princess Diana should be still here by all accounts, you know, changing the world, but they're not. I don't know why, but I'm still here. That's a blessing. There's a saying, you know, if you woke up this morning, you're winning, because you have the opportunity to change your outcome. I don't care whether it's, you know, you're in a ghetto, you have an opportunity to change your life. You're still here. That's a blessing. That's what you're going to do with it. It's perception anyway, right? It really is, because we have millionaires who are failures and very unhappy. And then you have some people who live out where there's no internet, happy as a kite. I envy them. Like, geez, you know, but here we are, still driven, hustling, find comfort in that and keep it moving.
What were those retirement years like, the 2000s, you know, the kidney transplant and all that for you? You know, when you look back on it now, what was
there were
that
some
like?
incredibly dark times, man. Wow.
Just being out of the sport affects you more than you think it will, right?
Yeah, because so being yanked out of the sport at the top of your game, that's rough. And it was really a spiral down. I mean, when I found out I had the disease in '99, it was so rare at that time, they ran tests for another year before they even confronted me and told me about it, because they just wanted to be, I guess, sure, because it was so rare at the time. And I remember, you know, being who I am, I just looked them in the face, I go, did I do this? You know, did I do this to myself based on what I use, what I've done? You know, if I pissed in a bed, then I got to sleep in it. Did I do this? And I'm like, no, 100% no. I go, how do you know that? You know, how do you know? And I remember them saying, you know, there's a famous basketball player that has the same disease, and we know he didn't do what you did. And they wouldn't tell me his name then, but now I know what it is. It's Lonzo Mourning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, huh. I said, okay. And then later on, I started meeting families. You had kids that obviously didn't do what I did. So, you know, I went into the hospital. Well, I found out I had the disease, and, you know, that was rough, because all my contracts left. They ran like the Black Plague. You imagine you're paying an athlete to look a certain way, and there's a dark side to what they have to do, and now you have kidney failure. Please try to convince me it's not a correlation of what you're doing. You're lying. Of course it is. No, it's a rare kidney disease, and, you know, it's FSGS, focal glomerulosclerosis. Sure it is, son. So they all ran like the plague. So I just lost everything, my mansion, my cars. And I was trying to explain it, you know, to somebody at a time, you know, so I was fortunate. I had a really big house that people would come to and get lost, you know, if they went the wrong direction. And I was forced from that to have to go and stand with my mother-in-law in a 3-bedroom house that had 1 bathroom, and it was me and my ex-wife now, me, her, and our 2 kids living in a room in a single bed, all 3 of us laying in it, and her sister and her husband and their kids living in the other room, and our mother living in another room. So coming from that into there, not to mention I had my dialysis machine that I was dialysizing myself, and it was hell. It's like, wow, this is my life now. And I remember trying to explain to them, because they'd be like, why are you depressed? I'm like, because, yeah, but you're here, Flex. I couldn't get that. I'm like, look at everything I lost. I'm like, why would that matter? I'm like, okay, so if you're this height and you fall, it hurts a certain amount. But if you're way up here and you fall, it is greater. And they were like, no, it's not. I'm like, of course it is. You're just saying it because you weren't up there. So anyway, fast forward, I get a transplant soon, because I was going to get dialyzed every other day for 3 hours, and at the time I was still around 260 pounds, so I was too heavy, and the kidney disease was getting more aggressive. So it got to the point where they wanted me to start coming in every day for 12 hours. And I just told them, I said, go F yourself. I'd rather die. He goes, no, you're going to if you don't. And we're not sure if you're going to make it, even if you do. I'm like, I don't have a life if I come in here and do that. I'd just rather just die. You know, that's no life to live. So I wasn't thinking about my kids or anything at the time. That was just the darkness I was in. And so fortunately I got a kidney transplant, and I thought that was great. But the girl who was my donor, it was a female, and she was very petite. And while I guess they had us out on a table, they discovered that the main artery to her kidney was short because she's tiny and I'm big. So they were going to put the kidney back in her and just stitch me back up. And I guess one of the surgeons, you know, had a great idea. Well, go into my main artery here and take it out and extend it and make, you know, the surgery work. Well, in the process of doing that, because I was not only weighing 260 pounds, but just probably at that time maybe 4%, so just muscular. You know, they use these huge clamps that open everything up, just like, I guess, a C-section. So in doing so, it killed the main artery here because I was clamped and it was, you know, pinched down for so long. So they got that to work, but I ended up having, you know, long story short, 9 surgeries in 11 weeks that I almost died from. And I was just some of the most just blood-curdling pain I ever experienced at that time. I was literally on oxycodone, which is one's a injectable and one's a pill. I was on a Demerol pump, and I had an epidural, you know, that was contacted to my spine. I was just hallucinating. I was in la la land, literally. I mean, they took me from my hospital bed and put me into a mental institution on the other part of the hospital because I was just gone. And here we can backlash to what I was talking about, drugs. So instead of helping me, all they did was put me on more drugs. So we all know that when you're on a tremendous amount of painkillers, what happens? Depression. Oh, now we need to put you on antidepressant. Oh, that's not working. Let's switch you to this. And that spiraled. I ended up having a bad effect from that and just losing it. Just where, you know, weeks would go by, and to me they're just seconds, and I would just hallucinate. I remember talking to my friends saying, you know, what do you think of my dog? And I only know these things because they told me later. And I'm asking him, what do you think of my dog? And he's like, what dog, Flex? He goes, my dog. And I'm pointing at my foot. You know, even something more embarrassing, my niece was visiting me, and I'm asking her what color underwear you got on. And she didn't tell me till years later, and when she told me, I was sobbing. That's my niece. She goes, Uncle Kenny, I knew that wasn't you. That didn't bother me. And another time I was so hungry because they starved me because I was having all these tests done, right? And I was starving. Plus, I'm coming off of eating 8,000 calories a day to being just shut down. So I'm dying and I'm angry. Imagine when you're hungry. I'm angry and I'm hallucinating, and I'm opening the cabinets and I'm getting everything out, and I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I put it on. And only when I bite do I realize it ain't nothing there, which just sends me into more anger and enrage. So they put me into a mental institution, and, you know, through arguments with them and just some of the things I seen in there with just people who have mental problems, a normal person just don't supposed to see that, and don't even supposed to see how they respond to those people. And I was arguing with them, and we discovered that 2 of the medications had an adverse effect that it said right on the label. Do not switch these 2 or mingle these 2 together, or else it causes this. And it goes, no, we don't think you're wrong. It goes, right there, read it. And as doctors, some are, no, you're wrong. And they came back, we think you're onto something. I'm like, I want out of here. No, you have to stay. I'm like, no, I want out of here. It goes, well, listen, you know, you were suicidal before, so, you know, you need help. I'm like, no, I beat that. This is you guys' fault. You know, well, just stay one more day and let's make sure. So the next day I even got better. So they just put me back on the other side of the hospital. So that was really hard. And I can't really explain it, but I remember, you know, my room was really dark, and to me, I thought it was a nurse, because nurse would come in and drawing blood at all times of the hour, and still I wonder, but this nurse came in and she just sat on my bed and she goes, what are you upset about? You know, what are you feeling bad about yourself? Why are you pitying? You know, I'm like, what do you mean? Look at me. Look at me. She goes, but look at everything you've done. You traveled the world. You made money. You won shows. Look at everything great you done. I go, but I ain't nothing now. Look at me. You need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. What about your kids? What about your family? You think of them? I'm like, and I just remember waking up, and I was just my beginning to stop the flight and start to fight. And when I got to the hospital, I had to go see the doctors every 3 months. You know, it was really critical. And I remember them because I'm dyslexic. I'm very good with remembering words and what you say and how to put that back to you. If you say something, I'm going to lock in on your words and I'm going to use them because that's your language. I know you'll understand it that way. And I remember the doctors, they're like, their cadence, the way they would talk to me was always the same, and always the same. And do you feel this? Does this happen? This, that, now? And then finally, like after, I think my 3rd visit, so that's 3, 6, 9 months. I'm like, why do you keep asking me these questions? Why do you keep doing that? Well, we just need to know. No, why do you keep doing that? It doesn't matter. I'm like, it does matter. Why do you keep asking me that? Well, it's just a chance that, you know, you might have a relapse. I'm like, what do you mean by that? It doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about it. Yeah, we do. This is my life. Why are you doing that? Well, Flex, the disease doesn't go away. I'm like, what do you mean? I had a kidney transplant. He goes, this is not like a heart transplant where you get a new heart and you're fine. He goes, the disease ravished your kidney. It's not in your kidney. It's still in you. I go, so what are you saying? And, you know, he cut the conversation off and I got angry and I got hostile. I'm like, no, you're going to effing tell me this is my life. He goes, well, you'll have to have another transplant. I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, your disease will ravish this kidney. I go, so you're saying I got to go through this all over again? Yeah, but don't worry about it. You know, you've been through it. You're a kidney transplant patient. You'll be fine. I go, no. I go, that's like telling a woman, you know, you're going to give birth again, even though you almost died 9 times giving birth to your last child. She'll probably opt out and say, I'm good. I'm not going to have any more kids. So you're telling me I'm going to have to go? He goes, well, you don't know that it's not going to happen. I go, but I do know that it's possible because I went through it. And I went home and I was just in a state of depression. Like, man, I thought I was done. You telling me, I think I laid in bed for maybe 3 days, allowing Kenny to just beat my ass, you know, like the old days. You get it?
Yeah.
And I got tired and angry with just the pity crap. And I said, you know what? Okay, if this is going to happen, it's going to have to come and get me. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to get back in shape. When it knocks on the door, I'm not answering. I'm out somewhere. It's going to have to come and find me. I'm not going to just sit here and let this just come and just happen. Like, hey, how you doing? Come on in. I'm like, I'm going to fight. And I just decided then, okay, can't go back into bodybuilding, but my love was always martial arts. All right, let's go back and start training and fighting again, and end up going back to the Honor Classic, the show that I won, and fighting. And that was I was trying to use that as my segue of getting into movies, because everybody's a black belt. John Wayne's a black belt, you know, Elvis Presley's a black belt, but being a real martial artist, no, they're not. They're given their belt. So I didn't want to be another one of those guys. And no disrespect to them, to any of their fans. It's just the truth. It is what it is. I said, okay, well, I need to figure out a platform to prove my skills, because when I fought, there was no internet. I have all the tapes, but even at that point, 2005, there was no Facebook or anything to upload those. Yeah. So I contacted Arnold's team and I said, you know, I want to come and fight in your martial arts version of the Honor Classic. And he goes, okay. And he goes, why? And I go, I want to get into movies. I want your help. But I want to prove that I'm an established martial artist. And the best way to do that is fighting. So yeah, took on that. So again, you know.
How was that received?
Great. It was great. It's interesting because I still battle with that guy, that Kenny guy, because even then, doing all those things, I'm still just kicking my ass on the other side mentally. You know, I ended up tearing my rotator cuff training So I couldn't train for like the last 2 months. So I'm mad now because I can't really display my skills, but I still won. But I didn't win. So Kenny beat me up that you didn't win the way you're supposed to. It was close.
That Kenny's tough, man.
Yeah, he's a dick. No, he's my other part of my
It seems like you always need a mission. It seems like you respond well to a mission.
I'm a horse.
Including last year when you went back for the Classic, you know.
Yes.
It seems like that's when you really focus.
Yeah, I call it like a horse that has a carrot dangling in front of him. I need a carrot dangling in front of me. And even though going back and competing in Olympia wasn't my carrot, I just knew I had a different mission. And, you know, my statement was, I wanted to just to show people that you didn't have to give up, you know, in life and whatever your dreams were. So now knowing that the majority of the public knew some of the things I've been through, I was like, how do I inspire people who don't have my opportunity? How do I inspire the person who has my disease who don't look healthy? Or how do I inspire, you know, someone who had, you know, a transplant, an organ transplant, who don't have my platform? You know, how do I inspire, you know, a rape victim? How do I inspire, you know, a suicide? You know, how do I inspire any of those people? How do I do that and give them hope? Okay, then I need to be vulnerable again. You know, one of my biggest things, people would always say, "Are you going to come back?" I'm like, hell no, are you kidding? I look like I've been in a fight with Jason and Freddy Krueger, and they both whooped my ass, hence all the scars from all the surgeries.
Okay.
So I'm like, no way would I ever go back up and reveal, you know, my imperfection. I always was, I guess, arrogantly proud that I have like beautiful skin and flawless. I'm not going to go back up and reveal my flaws, but I just knew that I had to, because there's people with worse scars than I do that don't feel good. And, you know, the classic physique had presented itself the year before, and one of my old training partners, Danny Hester, had won it. And I'm like, wow, well, this is my platform, because I don't have to go back on stage and be the mass monster. I can't. I already know my body can't handle it. Even though I have a new kidney, I can't stress at that. So this is great. This is a perfect class. So that was my whole thing. And, you know, I contacted, you know, Jen Mannion, president of IFBB Pro League, and Robin Chain, and I asked them permission. And, you know, their concern was like, no, I'm not going to let you do this, Flex. You don't have to prove anything. You know, your legacy stands for itself. I go, no, it's different than that. It's bigger than that. So they're concerned, like, you can't handle it. I'm like, I'm not going to have to do the crap I did before, and I'll take any blood work. You know, I already have a panel of blood work I've been taking for the last 13 years. And I'll show you that, and I'll continue taking blood work so you guys can match up and see if my numbers get worse. And I was able to prove that to him, and they're like, okay, you know. And he goes, why do you even want to do this? I go, because I got to try to instill hope in people who are like me, who feel hopeless and all the things that they've been through. You know, I remember at a point in time in my life where the hardest thing was just to get out of freaking bed. And here I am, this great performance athlete, right? Martial artist, traveled all over the world competing, trained every day. Always had a carrot, and here I am. I can't even get my butt out of bed. I can't even feed myself. I just don't have the energy or the will just to even get out of bed, you know, just to take a shower. I'm like, how many people are still stuck in that, you know? So I knew I had to do it for them. So
glad you did it.
I am, extremely.
It's a bold move, you know. It really, in weird ways, it's more inspirational than being there in the 90s.
I agree, and that's what I wanted to accomplish, and I did. You know, I still battled with Kenny because I couldn't look a certain way, and I even remember talking to my friend Rico, who was very instrumental in helping me get ready after the show. Well, obviously I was in tears because I got a standing ovation, and one of the things I was always angry about is I got snatched off stage. I didn't get to say farewell to everybody, so I wanted to be able to say bye and thank you guys for everything. So I got that, and just you know, tremendous standing ovation. But after it was all done, I'm beating myself up because I could have looked better. And I remember talking to Rico, you know, somebody who I can just be brutally honest. He knows both people, all of them inside me more than me. And he goes, which do you prefer? I go, what do you mean? He goes, what did you pray for? I said, I kept praying that I could just make it, man, that my body would just hold out, you know, just let me get up there. I don't care what place, just let me get up there. If I get up there, you know, I won. First kidney recipient transplant to ever step on an Olympia stage. You know, all the things that I've been through, I won. He goes, so you got what you prayed for? I go, what do you mean? He goes, would you have preferred to be up there and have won and not affected everybody, or have placed where you did and caused this great ripple effect? I'm like, so you got what you wanted, right? I'm like, yeah, I did. And I was able to find comfort in that and do now. Yeah, definitely.
That's strong. That's big for you.
It is.
It's a big personal achievement.
Exactly. Yeah, I beat him down again. I beat Kenny up again. Yeah.
You know, you're here in England this week because you're going to be up at the Body Power Expo in Birmingham, and I'm just wondering, we're seeing a lot of kind of a throwback where people are looking to the guys in the 90s as like the masters of the universe. You know, they're looking back to your physiques and what you guys accomplished. And I know this because I talked to Dorian and a lot of people. And what do you make of that? The kids these days looking up to you guys versus maybe current champs.
You know, I think everything goes in a rhythm, right? At one time, you know, they thought they built the best cars, and now they have better cars. And now we can maybe look back and say, maybe cars were better then. We didn't get killed, you know, they were stronger. So I guess for argument's sake, the majority of people feel the 90s were the best ever because it was highly as competitive and produced probably the greatest amount of Hall of Famers. And I think because of YouTube and people like yourself that put on these shows that highlights that, people now see and are reminded. And, you know, it's still shocking that there's a famous pose of me that Gary Phillips took where I'm looking down. I didn't even go into the pose yet. I'm getting ready to go into the pose, and it's an iconic photo for me. And they still compare it to the current Miss Olympia. And that was from 1999. And I guess it's a beautiful feeling, once again, that just people accepted your hard work that you've done and everything that you put into it. But I don't, even more so, I think my generation, the 90s, we always paid respect to the guys before us. Arnold, I had the honor of standing on stage with Lou Ferrigno, who's a huge friend of mine. Who could not be a fan of Lou, right? Incredible Hulk. We all respected them. And I think there was a time in the mid-2000s where there was no respect for the old-timers. We were just old-timers. And now, because of, you know, the digital world, they're able to go back and look at these photos and mock them up against the current guys, and there lies respect again. But you should always learn from your past. Our past have something tremendous to gain from, and you lose your past in anything, you know, you'll lose your future, because you will be the past one day. No matter what, you will be the has-been. And, you know, by damn, you better respect the guys before you, because you will be that guy. And how would you like the newcomers now not to respect you anymore? So I think we're coming full circle, and you're seeing that. I think even more so, it helps people like me and Dorian and some other guys. We stay in great physical set. You know, we try to stay in our life and recreate ourselves, because we can't be the Dorian of old. I can't be the Flex Wheeler of old. I have to constantly create myself to be current. And in doing that,
in a weird way, you must evolve, because I mean, you guys are teaching us. You know, you're not the elder statesmen. You guys are like the wise sages. But it's true, and I get a similar vibe to you as I do to Dorian when I'm in his presence. It's like we need this info in a big way, and you can teach these young men and women because of who you were. People listen to what you're saying and really take it in. It's a powerful position to be in.
I identify that to our presidents of back in the old, you know, 4 scores and whatever, the way they wrote back then, right? You even look at the way they dressed, just walking out, pristine, their vocabulary. We fell from that, haven't we? Our schools have fell from that. But they taught us something, and now we can go back and look at that and see the great things that they've done. It's known that, you know, us as men are nothing compared to our great-grandfathers. We're not half the men they were. So you have to do that. That's how you evolve and learn. Yeah, you should evolve, but how do you evolve unless you don't know where you came from? And I think that's, you know, that's a responsibility that guys from my era must do. We must pay it forward And we must prove that you don't have to fall off of life just because I can't walk around and crack the concrete with each step, you know. No, there's a new me. Hence, when those prime guys now are number one, they can maybe look at me at 52 or 53 and like, yeah, I can still be okay then. You know, you constantly paying it forward. And I think it's our damn right to. We made our money off the public. So how can you cannot be a public servant now? You already did. You know, you shouldn't just be one because you're making massive money off of them. It's a yin and a yang. It comes a time when you need to give back. And that's where the greatest gift is giving back. And we all know that. I know that. I know you know that by looking in your eyes. That's the greatest gift. It doesn't pay the bills or anything like that. But paying the bills and have millions in a bank don't always make all men happy. No, it's what we do. And that effect that we give other people, that's just something that happens to the soul that money can't do. You know, nothing wrong with money though. But,
but you've seen both sides of that coin. You know?
Yeah, I have, and I know it. I've had crazy cars and 8-story houses and embellished in other activities that I would come home and try to shoot myself in the head. And now, you know, I'm not hurting whatsoever and, you know, doing really well, but I don't long for those things, nor am I trying to shoot myself in the head either. So there's wisdom to that. You know, I hurt for the people who couldn't get over that next second where they could learn from it. That's probably the worst thing, because if they would have just probably last one more second, that could have been in a minute to an hour to a year, you know. So that's my call of responsibility to speak up for them and people who are struggling with those things now.
I think all of your life was prepared you for this moment, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, it seems so obvious to me, maybe to you some days, where it's like, yeah, okay, coming in first was super important to you in the 90s, but what's really important is you speaking now. Yeah,
I do. I fully agree to that. Hence why it's nothing to be sad about. And I said it's a blessing, because that's a privilege that I get to do. I get to share with other people. I get to travel the world and share my experiences. I get to, you know, it's one thing, whether it's in a ghetto or, you know, talking to a Fortune 500 millionaire, unless you've done and been in their shoes, they're going to look at you like you don't know nothing about my world. Well, there's not too many worlds that I don't know anything about, so I can sit there and have that intimate conversation and make a contact with them. And yeah, that's what I'm charged to do. I accept that responsibility. It's difficult, but life's going to be difficult anyway. Now, what are you going to do about it? It's going to be difficult whether you're a street drug. It's going to be difficult. Or it's going to be difficult whether you're successful. Which one warms a heart more? So I just chose to go at it and enjoy it and embrace it. And that's great. I mean, if I can help any person who's in one of those dark times that I can be in, are you kidding? Boy, you'd have to have been in one of those dark places, you know, and then you just see a hand reaching out to help you. Are you kidding? And no amount of gratitude or anything can do that, you know. Literally having somebody tell you that, you know, you saved their life. This poor black kid from the ghetto, you know. So I am extremely aware that everything I've been through helped me to be the person that I'm supposed to be today, good and bad, and still growing, still evolving, still things I don't like, still trying. And that's just me, and my DNA won't stop until, you know, I lay at rest.
What are you doing 10 years from now?
Hopefully the same thing. Hopefully the same thing, changing people's lives through my own experiences, enjoying my kids. I'm already a great grandfather, so you know, so hopefully just enjoying all that, and hopefully I found a little bit more in the middle of the yin and yang, instead of having to be so extreme on one and not chasing the other. Hopefully I'm closer. So 10 years later, hopefully I'm 10 years closer to being that. And if I am, then great. Yeah.
What keeps you awake at night these days?
Me. I've always said the greatest thing about me and the worst thing about me is me. It's easy. That's an easy question. I do. Failures, things that I've been through, everything that we talked about negative, everything that I've done good, whether I could have done it better or not. Yeah, those things keep me awake. Fear of the world, things that are going on, being a control freak. And the older I get, understanding how much control I don't have over crap is one of the most frighteningest things. I've always been a control freak, and the older I get, the more I understand you don't control over nothing, and that's pure fear. What keeps me awake at night? Our president of the United States keeps me awake at night. I'm not afraid to say that at all.
Can you speak on that?
Can
you tell me why?
Yeah, I don't feel that he speaks for everyone. I can say from my personal experiences, so I don't see Democratic or Republican. I don't get that BS. I don't get that bullshit at all. If you're for something, then you're for it. If you're not, you're not. There can't be no division, right? There's good and there's bad. You can't say that you're helping and you're going in two different directions. You know that that's not helping. That's tearing the country or the world apart. So that's BS. So I don't give a damn whether you're an alien from another planet. If you're trying to do the right thing, I'm behind you. That's all I see is just good and it's bad. For the first time in my life, I fear for my life, you know, based on what I think has happened, you know, during this last year of the president coming in office, things that he says out of his mouth, things that he's doing that are just, so I hold myself to a higher accountability because of what I've been able to do and make my money. I just said it, it's my responsibility, right? And here you are, the leader of our country, and you do things that a child would do, tweeting about things that a child would do. You know, yeah, I don't really understand the politician world, but I don't think you really have to just to know right from wrong. A child can tell you that. Children are some of the most honest people in the world. Your breasts stink. They didn't mean anything wrong. They're just being honest. Yeah, that's fearful. And I think, you know, and being now in business, the business that I'm involved in are global, seeing now that how it can affect me globally everywhere based on what happens here, what happens in the United States, seeing how that affects everyone, traveling to all these countries, being a part of that, being in their environment, seeing what's really going on. That's scary. That's scary.
Because he represents you when you travel, so people think,
yeah.
Oh, you're American.
Well, yes and no. More so not, because most of the time when I'm traveling somewhere, they already know who I am, hence the reason why I'm there. But even like my driver who was bringing me here, he's from Pakistan, and we're talking about it. And regardless, I am American, and he represents us, but he doesn't represent all of us. You know, and I think as a leader, if I'm taking on a stance that I'm responsible for certain things, and I'm just this little ordinary guy, you're like the spokesperson for an entire nation, then shouldn't you take even higher values than I do? I don't see that. I've never, tell me if you have, I've never seen a president in office and so many of his advisors quitting or running. I've never seen that before. You have division in your own world. How are you supposed to help us when you can't even president your own world there? Yet you're going to come out and just have such enforce and impact on the world? Yeah, that's scary.
How's this going to play out?
Don't know. Wow. You tell me. What are your thoughts?
It's strange watching from over here because my mom comes and visits me sometimes from San Diego, and I can see this, you know, it's just deeply disturbed. And she said, you know, I can't, you go out anywhere socially and there's a divide, you know, and it's very hard for us to understand what it's like internally in America. But I can see that it in her face, that it's really serious.
Yeah, and when he won, so it's sad because I think he kind of represents like a Ross Perot. You remember Ross Perot?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I think he would have done a bifurcation. He was talking the same thing, I think, more honestly. Hey, this is wrong. This is nonsense. You need to do this. But they wouldn't hear him, right? But I think he had a heart, right? So here you have a better talker or whatever, and he wins. But like I said, the first time I ever feared, and So being that I just believe in whoever's going to help us. I wasn't really for him, but when he won, I had to sit there and I was glued to the TV like most people. Wow, he won. You know what? It's your president. Be behind him, give him a shot. And he gave that speech after he won, right? And I'm like, all right. He's talking the right talk. He hasn't did any of that. And that just set a fear, you know, and even certain things he says now, like, you know, when you say cliches make America great again, or if they're popping off of the mouth, you know, punch them. That brings back pictures for me of what America was back then. And, you know, like your mother said, you know, never had felt that type of tension before. Wow, that's scary. And to know that he has such effect on the world globally, it's very fearful, you know. We're all humans. I already said we're all going to make mistakes. It's only one person on this planet who did. They killed him. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. We all have imperfections. But depending on what you do, you should be held at more accountability. What you do with your show, you're accountable. If you have some porn, child molestation, raping person, you need to be responsible and not have that person on your show. You have accountability. So does he. And I don't see him holding up to it. Yeah, and that's scary. And it's even more scary for a black person because I don't see color. My grandmother raised me. She was born in 1909. So you got to know she's seen everything. She always taught me there's no black, there's no white. There's just good and there's bad. So you're talking about a woman who's literally seen people tarred and feathered, hung, and all that, beaten, shot just because of their color. And for her to understand there's no good and there's no bad, she instilled that in me, yeah. But when you have someone who highlights those things, that's scary. I was a police officer. And now to be fearful when I get pulled over, you know, to see some of the things that come out on the internet where, you know, cops are saying, hey, you know, the one it went viral where the police officer pulled over a Caucasian lady and she was terrified, didn't want to reach for her phone. He goes, no, go ahead and reach for your phone. It's viral. And he goes, no, I'm scared that you're going to shoot me. He goes, point blank, he goes, when have you seen us shoot white people? We just killed black people. Jesus. Yeah, I could show you the video. And he said he got caught, fired. We only kill black people. Whenever you ever seen us shoot white people, you're okay. Go ahead and reach for your phone. And so it doesn't make me look bad at officers because I'm aware there's good and there's bad. Just because you're an officer don't mean that you're going to be a good person. You got to be a good person then become an officer. So, but it's scary. It's frightening. Being an officer, I had guns pulled out on me for no reason by officers. I've been told point blank, listen, don't accidentally move too fast. I might accidentally shoot you. I've been told that before. While a gun pointed at me, don't move too fast. You're a big boy. I might accidentally shoot you.
As an ex-officer, so that's happening to you.
Yeah. So all those things, you know, it doesn't instill hope in me, and I don't think it instills hope in a lot of people. I think, you know, whether you're American and German, Russian, Chinese, you know, I've been to Russia. I was just over there, you know, just a few months ago, which was really interesting because of the things we're going through. But there's honest people everywhere, and honest people just want the best for themselves. And if you want the best for themselves, that means you have to respect other people and want the best for them too. And I just don't really see that happening right now. So I don't know. But at the end of the day, right, as we go off in our toilet bowl effect of a conversation, you know, the man upstairs is in control, and what's going to happen is going to happen. And it's all meant to happen. And, you know, it's going to happen the way he wants it to. And it's all for a bigger plan. I didn't know my father's works because I was a child. And I had childlike thoughts. And I don't know my father's works because I'm a child. So I have childlike thoughts. I can't comprehend, you know, but I have faith and I know that, you know, that he's in control. So when I get too deep into my swirl effect, you know, I try to remember that, and that pulls me out. Yeah. Yeah,
there's a lot of things we just don't understand. So you can focus on the one thing you can control, which is yourself.
Hopefully.
Hopefully on good days.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And have some faith. Flex, I always ask people a couple questions at the end. I'm going to ask you. If you could pick up the phone and call up the 20-year-old Kenneth and give that young man a bit of advice based on everything you know now, what would you tell him?
I'd tell him to love himself. And I'd tell him, prepare yourself. It's going to be difficult, but it'd be worth it. So dive all in. It'll be worth it at the end. But yeah, I just would tell him, you know, and just love yourself. You're okay, kid.
You love yourself now?
I do, more so than I did. And continue to. Every day that I'm here, I get the opportunity to do some more.
It's that yin and yang journey, huh?
Yeah, it is. It always is.
It's good advice. On that same note, best advice you ever received? Could have been, well, we heard what Grandma said. That was good advice. Could have been from a martial arts instructor or a fellow competitor.
I think I would have to say what my grandmother said. There's no good, no bad, because that helped me throughout the rest of my life, even dealing with racism and seeing that, you know, because this person did this or said this doesn't identify to all people who look like him or her. And understanding, you know, like I said, what my grandmother lived through and what she did. She cleaned the house for a living, you know, rich white people house. She cleaned their houses for a living. And she just understood a job's a job. And she had tremendous respect for herself. And that instilled in me deeply just that there's no color barrier. There's just good and there's bad, because I've had people of my own color do horrible things to me. I've had people of other colors do horrible things to me. What's the common denominator? Some people just do horrible things, and that's it. You don't write them off as because they're black or they're white. You just write them off. They're bad, they're good. It has nothing to do with color. I'd probably say that was the root, the seed that helped spawn every branch that I'm my existence to now. Because if you don't have that at such a young age, you hate. We see it, right?
Yeah.
We see it. You see it portrayed in movies. Two, whatever, black or white kids loving each other as babies. But what they're taught, they grow up and they hate and they'll kill each other. And she put probably the greatest seed in me ever. Nah, that's no color, man. It's just good and it's bad. Simple as that. If you don't have that, then everything else goes to shit. It really does, right? It really does. So that would definitely be it. That, and then just instilling, you know, the man upstairs. Even though I was a derelict throughout my life, it was just enough to keep me from teetering over that edge and helping me, you know, become who I am. And then understanding the farther I've come, the more I understand how much farther I have to go. Right? It's like you gain more knowledge and you think you're more knowledgeable, but the more you understand, you're like, my God, how much I don't understand. Beautiful journey, man. Just enjoy it, you know?
Last part of that question. To that 20-year-old that's watching us right now, growing up in this crazy world, you know, what advice do you give to them? What do they need to just focus on, remind themselves of? What do you tell them?
These success secrets are only available on the London Real Academy. Become a member and get access to live shows, exclusive courses, my webinars, bonus content, meetups, live events, an amazing community, and much, much more. Now back to the rest of the show.
Your weakest moments are actually your strongest, because you're allowing somebody stronger to help you. But you got to be weak. You got to surrender. You got to understand, I am weak. What does an alcoholic have to do? The first thing they have to realize, I am an alcoholic. Once you do that, now the help can start. I am an alcoholic. Now let's start living. So, yeah. Definitely. I before this end, I just can't tell you what an extraordinary interview this has been, and you know, to even want me on your show, to allow me this platform to share what I've been through. Yeah, that's just beautiful, and what you're doing is incredible. Wish we had more people like you, but one can affect one, that can affect one, that can affect one. So I commend you and charge you to keep doing and fighting a good fight, brother. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Kenneth. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And, you know, before we go, I want to say, the minute you walked in that door, I knew we were going to have an amazing conversation, you know? And you've got a real presence about you. And I think it comes from the iron sharpening the iron. And for some people, the iron is other things in their life. Your iron is you. And you've been there and you've done that hard time and you've gone to those dark places, whether it was as a kid, training the martial arts, the bodybuilding, but even more so, everything you dealt with afterwards and the surgeries and the mental places and all of that. But it carries with your character. You have amazing eye contact.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate that we can bring men like you in here. And I'm finding a theme here. Men kind of in their 50s now, because you're kind of a mentor to me now, you know, and you're saying these things that are just the truth. And people are listening. They're really listening. People are going to listen to this whole thing. It's going to change their life because you're speaking things that we all know are deep down inside true, but we forget. We forget with the social media and the tweets and the nonsense we get caught up with. But it all comes down to the basics, you know, look inside, higher purpose. You know, we are all one. Let's look out for each other.
Yeah.
Let's move forward as a crazy human species, you know.
Yeah.
Let's advance.
Yeah. I want to share one last story with you based on what you said just now. I was with my daughter. You know, like I said, I divorced. I have 3 amazing, you know, beautiful kids. My daughter just turned 10. Her name is Pearl, Faith Pearl Wheeler. So Faith is named after my grandmother. So we had to give her that middle name. But anyway, so we were in a In-N-Out Burger. And we having, you know, I took her to eat after her meal after school. And you always can notice, and I'm sure you do, when someone notices who you are, they act different. You know, they're kind of staring, they're kind of building their self up to walk up to you. So I noticed this young man, and you know, finally approaching, are you Flex? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, wow, I heard you lived in this area. I go, well, I moved to Vegas, but yeah. And he goes, man, I just want to tell you what you've done for me. And I've heard that a lot of times. Since everything has happened to me, I hear it differently now. But for the first time, I heard what was really going on. And even what you just said, I understand what's really going on. What he was seeing wasn't me. What he was seeing was allowed me to project through me from somebody else. I can't affect nobody like that. I can't. I'm a failure in all ways. Like Michael Jordan said, how many failure shots he's taken, how many times he's lost. Because of that, he's great. So I can't affect nobody like that, but who really can? So I understand that, no, it's not me. It's someone greater than me. And you're just allowed just to see a glimmer of that shine through me. And just that millimeter second is so great because of who he is. It's powerful to you. But we can't affect, you know, people like that. We don't have that type of energy. What is it? We only use like 2% or something like that of our brain power or something. So thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment, but yeah, let's make sure we give, you know, the person who deserves that, you know, the respect that they deserve. And hopefully, you know, I can continue being that for people. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, you know, just as like what you're doing. It's an incredible thing. And I know from the internet and all this craziness, you can be doing a lot of other type of interviews that would be getting just billions of views, but you take a responsibility. So I think a lot of us are charged with certain things, and I'm happy to see that, you know, what you're doing. And it was just an honor. And on the way here, I kept wondering what type of interview was this going to be. And I know you guys wanted me to fill out certain things. I'm like, that's not me, but it'll just flow. I'm like, it just depends on what type of character and you are. And as soon as we start talking outside, I was like, the conversation and interview had already started and the camera wasn't on. I was like, well, we got to get this on camera. But thank you for being who you are and allowing me to be who I am. It takes, you know, a lot of strength for someone to do that. And that's a lot of strength on your behalf. So I can't, there's not a word that I can come up with to thank you so much for just having me on your show and just thinking that I have anything to say that has any value whatsoever.
Yeah, well, it was chock full of it. So I'm horrible at taking compliments, but I really appreciate the kind words, Kenneth. I do. And, you know, I kind of got, I tell people around here, I got this 100-year plan. So, like, we're not in a rush. We're here to do things the right way.
Beautiful.
And I fully believe this conversation will be watched 10 years from now, 100 years from now, maybe 1,000 years from now. And people will be like, oh, okay, now I know what he talks. Now that's what he meant. That can help me today. So I feel like what we're doing here is super important. And
I do too. And again, you can have the greatest situation in the world, but if it's in the dark, who knows? But you're giving me an opportunity to put this in just billions of viewers' eyes. So again, thank you. You know, it can't happen without you and whatever forethought and getting me here, and just me choosing to come to England at this time. It's all dots, and every little dot eventually becomes a picture, but it starts with one, and here we are with one.
On London Real, we say it's about the journey.
It is about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey and getting there, right? When we can enjoy the ride to get to Disneyland greater than getting to Disneyland, is then truly, you know, that's truly the journey and enjoying. It was like that, right? Back in the days, family being in the car, and they would enjoy.
That's the part you remember, right?
Right? Yeah, yeah.
It's like what Bruce Lee's master said to him when he answered that question in Into the Dragon. He says, okay, you finally evolved.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I use it with a lot of my students that I train or whatever. Well done, grasshopper. And that's from, what is it called? Kung Fu. Remember, he would always say, well done, grasshopper. Yeah. But just sayings like that, yeah, definitely. So to you and, you know, your parents and everybody who affected you, you know, well done, grasshopper. The journey continues.
Yeah, it does. All right, well, let us know how you're doing. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to keep doing. And it's such an honor to have you here, so thank you so much. And I don't ask for this much, but I'm going to need to get a hug out of you as well. So let's do this.
It'd be an honor.
The critics who always speak behind my back, maybe I want to hear them remind me, he's back, the great pretender. I hope this time he gets hurt. I love these guys. They give me fuel. If you want to reach your objective, you want to achieve it, you're going to have to be obsessive. You're going to have to be obsessed. Feel what you do. Feel it. If you're not feeling it, it doesn't matter.
Chris Eubank Jr. How do you explain his prowess in the ring?
Junior has that obsession, that genius, that magic. Genius is obsession, but it's in one area.
You studied the sweet science for so much of your life. How do you walk away from it? Do you miss it?
You can't walk away from it. I am it. And even when I dance, really I'm boxing. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, the one who strives valiantly.
What was the worst day of your life, and how has it shaped you as a human being?
When I fought Nigel Benn, I stood like this. It was to mask this. The risk must be taken. That's why you are London Reelers. That's why we're here. We're tired of sitting still, watching it happening for others. Let's do it.